Feelings have a powerful effect on everything we do. They can either help us move forward or hold us back. When emotions run wild, it's easy to lose focus and miss opportunities, but learning how to control your feelings can change your life. Imagine waking up each day with calm, clear thinking and the strength to handle any challenge. This is not about ignoring emotions, but understanding them and using that knowledge to succeed. In this video, you will discover simple and practical ways to manage your feelings so they support your goals instead of getting in the way. You'll learn how to build habits that protect your peace and keep your mind sharp. If you want to improve your daily life, increase your resilience, and take steady steps towards success, this guide is for you. Stay with me and let's start transforming how you relate to your emotions right now. Chapter 1. Recognize your emotions. To take control of your mind. Every human being experiences emotions, but few truly understand them. Most people go through life being controlled by how they feel without ever realizing it. They react instead of respond. They speak out of frustration, act out of fear, and make choices based on short-term emotional waves that end up shaping long-term results. Success, however, doesn't come from emotion-driven decisions. It comes from learning to recognize what you feel, understand why you feel it, and then use that awareness to act with purpose. The moment you recognize your emotions clearly is the moment you begin to reclaim control over your life. When you feel frustrated, anxious, or even excited, your mind tends to race. You get pulled into the emotion, and before you know it, you're saying or doing something you didn't plan. That is what happens when emotion controls thought. But when you learn to pause, observe, and recognize your feelings for what they are, temporary signals, you gain the power to think clearly and choose a response that actually serves your goals. This isn't about denying emotions or pretending to be unaffected. It's about stepping into a position of awareness and leadership over your own mind. People often say they want discipline or focus, but these qualities are impossible if you don't first learn to recognize what's happening inside you. Think of all the times you've walked away from something important simply because you felt nervous. Think of the arguments you've had, not because the other person was wrong, but because you were overwhelmed with anger or pride. Think of the opportunities you avoided, not because they weren't right, but because you felt afraid. These feelings are powerful, and if you don't learn to see them clearly, they quietly dictate the direction of your life. The first step to taking control of your mind is to become familiar with what you're feeling. Not to analyze it, not to fix it, just to recognize it. When something happens and you feel your heart rate go up, your jaw tense or your stomach twist, pause. Don't move, don't speak. Just observe. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Name it, not in a vague way like bad or upset, but in real specific words. Am I feeling rejected? Am I feeling ashamed? Am I feeling disappointed or threatened or ignored? This is where emotional power begins. When you can name an emotion, you remove its ability to control you in the dark. Emotions are strongest when you're unaware of them. Once you shine a light on them, they lose some of that control. This is a discipline. You won't get it perfect the first time or even the 100th time. But each time you stop and recognize your feeling, you're training your mind to slow down and think before reacting. You're shifting your power from impulse to intention. In most situations, people feel something and immediately act on it. Someone says something critical and they feel insulted, so they snap back. They feel disrespected, so they shut down. They feel anxious, so they avoid the situation entirely. But when you recognize the emotion before responding, you give yourself the chance to ask a more useful question. Does this feeling help or hurt the outcome I want? If you're angry, is expressing it right now going to fix the problem or make it worse? If you're scared, is that fear showing you a real threat or just protecting your ego? You can't answer these questions if you're lost in the emotion. You can only answer them if you recognize it first. This is where your real strength comes from, not from suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist, but from facing them head-on with clarity. Some people spend their entire lives trying to control their actions without ever controlling their feelings. They try to push themselves to work harder, to be more productive, to succeed, yet they keep sabotaging themselves because they don't know how to recognize the emotional patterns pulling them backward. Once you develop the skill of emotional recognition, you'll start to see just how much of your life was previously dictated by emotion you didn't even notice. You'll catch yourself in moments where you used to react, and instead, you'll sit in uncomfortable feelings and see them for what they are. Signals, not commands. Emotions are like messages from your internal world. They carry information, but they don't carry truth. Just because you feel like you're not good enough doesn't mean you aren't. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean someone wronged you. Just because you feel anxious doesn't mean something bad will happen. Your job is to recognize the feeling and then decide what to do next. Not because the emotion tells you to, but because your mind is in charge. This kind of mental clarity leads to self-mastery, and self-mastery is the foundation of success. It means you no longer wake up dreading your day because of an invisible emotional cloud you don't understand. It means you no longer carry resentment toward others because you've learned to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of blaming someone else for causing them. It means you make decisions based on values, not moods. There's something empowering about being able to say, I feel nervous, but I'm still going to do this. Or, I feel angry, but I'm not going to let that ruin this moment. These small decisions, repeated over time, are what change your life. No one becomes successful overnight. They become successful by mastering what they do every day. And what you do every day is shaped by what you feel and how you respond to those feelings. To practice this in daily life, start by checking in with yourself regularly. Before responding to a text, before having a conversation, before starting your work, pause and ask, what am I feeling right now? Where is this feeling coming from? Is it based on something real, or is it a memory, an insecurity, a fear? You don't have to fix the feeling. Just name it. Acknowledge it. Give it space without letting it take control. If you find yourself in emotionally intense situations, take a break before responding. Even a minute of silence can make a difference. During that pause, breathe slowly. Bring your attention to your body. Are your fists clenched? Is your breathing shallow? Are your shoulders tight? These physical signs will tell you more about your emotional state than your thoughts will. Let your body become a guide. It holds emotions long before the mind processes them. In time, you'll begin to recognize emotional patterns. Maybe you notice that certain people always trigger a specific feeling. Maybe you see that you always get anxious before starting something new. Maybe you realize that boredom often disguises itself as irritation. These realizations are gold. They are the building blocks of your emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence is the foundation of your success. Every successful person has had to face themselves. Not just the world, not just the obstacles, but their own fears, insecurities, doubts, and impulses. They've had to look in the mirror and say, I need to be stronger than my feelings. That doesn't mean becoming cold. It means becoming aware. It means choosing discipline over drama. It means choosing growth over comfort. And it all starts with the ability to recognize what you feel instead of being controlled by it. The more aware you become of your emotions, the more peace you will feel. Not because your life will be perfect, but because you'll know that no matter what happens, you have the ability to choose your response. That's where real power lives, in the gap between feeling and action. Most people don't even know that gap exists. But once you do, once you train yourself to pause, reflect and respond, you step into a level of self-control most people never reach. This is not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. It's about facing every feeling, good or bad, with honesty and strength. It's about choosing your life moment by moment, instead of letting it be driven by whatever you happen to feel that day. Recognizing your emotions is a daily practice. Some days you'll get it right. Other days you'll fall back into old habits. But each time you try again, you're rewiring your brain to live with awareness and intention. Success isn't a result of talent alone. It's a result of discipline, awareness, and the ability to manage what happens inside you. If you can master your emotions, you can master your decisions. If you can master your decisions, you can shape your habits. And if you can shape your habits, you can build the life you want. It all begins with the simple but powerful choice to recognize what you feel instead of running from it, reacting to it, or being ruled by it. Start today. When something triggers you, stop and notice it. When joy arises, savor it. When fear shows up, greet it. Learn from every emotion, but don't let any emotion own you. With every moment of awareness, you're taking back control of your mind. And the more control you gain over your mind, the more success you'll be able to create on your terms, in your time, with full ownership of your choices. That is the real beginning of self-mastery. That is how you rise. Chapter 2. Observe feelings without judgment to build emotional clarity. Most people go through life reacting to how they feel without ever stopping to understand the emotions moving through them. They judge their feelings as good or bad, right or wrong, acceptable or shameful. This constant judgment creates confusion. It makes them feel broken when they're sad, weak when they're scared, and guilty when they're angry. But feelings are not moral statements. They are not facts. They are not instructions. They are simply experiences passing through you, often shaped by memories, beliefs, or passing moments. When you stop judging your emotions and start observing them instead, you gain the ability to understand yourself with clarity and calm. Emotional clarity means seeing what you feel without distortion. It means understanding the difference between what you feel and what is real. Most confusion in life begins when people attach too much meaning to a passing emotion. You feel anxious, and instead of seeing it as a signal, you see it as proof that something is wrong. You feel sad, and instead of allowing it to pass, you assume your life has no purpose. This is where pain becomes suffering, when you cling to the emotion and assign it a meaning it never intended to carry. But if you simply observe the feeling, let it come, sit with it, and let it go, you begin to develop a relationship with your emotions that is rooted in strength, not struggle. Observation begins with silence. Not just the kind where you stop talking, but the kind where you stop trying to fix or label what you're feeling. The moment an emotion arises, whether it's discomfort, fear, restlessness, or even joy, pause, feel it fully without pushing it away and without clinging to it. Do not say this feeling is bad. Do not say it should not be here. Just notice it. Where is it in your body? Is it tightness in the chest, a rush in your head, a pit in your stomach? Breathe into that space. Allow the sensation to exist without resistance. The more you practice this, the more you train your nervous system to stay present and composed during emotional storms. You're not the emotion. You are the one watching the emotion. This distinction is powerful. The mind will often try to make the feeling part of your identity. It will say, "I am anxious" or "I am angry," but no emotion is who you are. It is what you're experiencing. You don't say, "I am a headache." You say, "I have a headache." The same should apply to what you feel emotionally. You are having an experience of anger. You are noticing anxiety. You are sitting with sadness. When you shift your language in this way, you loosen the grip those emotions have over your sense of self. To grow emotionally, you must learn to feel everything without becoming attached to any of it. This takes practice. Many people want to escape their feelings. They distract themselves, numb themselves, or pretend everything is fine. Others dive into their emotions and drown in them. They let their entire day, even their entire life, be shaped by one mood. Neither extreme leads to clarity. The path is in the middle, feeling deeply, but not becoming defined by what you feel. It means allowing emotions to pass through you, like clouds across the sky, without chasing or fighting them. This kind of emotional discipline doesn't happen overnight. It starts with one choice: to observe, not to fix, not to fight, not to escape. Just observe. Maybe you feel irritated. Instead of snapping or shutting down, you watch the feeling. Where is it coming from? What memory or belief does it touch? Often the emotion isn't about the present moment at all. It's about a fear from the past or an expectation that wasn't met. As you observe without judgment, the root begins to reveal itself. You begin to understand what's beneath the surface. That's where real emotional clarity begins. The practice of observation gives you space between the emotion and your reaction. That space is where your power lives. Without it, you are a puppet of your emotions, reacting the way you always have. With it, you are free to choose a new way. When someone criticizes you and you feel defensive, you don't have to defend yourself. You can observe the feeling, understand where it comes from, and decide how you want to respond. This is the foundation of emotional maturity, responding with intention rather than reacting with habit. There's strength in being able to sit with any feeling without needing it to go away. It shows that you trust yourself. You know that no emotion, no matter how strong, can break you. It might shake you, challenge you, or surprise you, but it won't control you. That kind of presence comes from daily practice. You must make time to check in with yourself, not just when life is peaceful, but especially when it's hard. When things are heavy and emotions run deep, that is when observation matters most. In those moments, most people abandon themselves. They run. You must stay. Sit in the silence. Breathe. Feel what's there without naming it good or bad. Let it pass through. Emotions are temporary visitors. No matter how intense, they always change. What stays is your awareness, your ability to witness what you feel without being swallowed by it. That is where you build trust with yourself. The more you do this, the less afraid you become of your own inner world. And when you're no longer afraid of what you feel, you become grounded. You don't get pulled into every emotional current. You walk through life with clarity, calm, and confidence. Real clarity doesn't come from thinking more. It comes from observing more. When you feel something strong, don't overanalyze it. Just sit with it. Notice it. Describe it to yourself without judgment. It's just energy moving through your body. You are the space that holds the experience, not the experience itself. The moment you realize that, you begin to change how you live. You stop chasing highs and avoiding lows. You begin to live in alignment with what matters, not with what feels urgent. This inner steadiness becomes a powerful tool for growth. It allows you to focus, to listen better, to stay calm when others panic, and to make decisions based on your values rather than your feelings. The people around you will start to notice that something is different. You no longer get swept away in small dramas. You no longer take everything personally. You become a steady presence, not just for yourself, but for others. That kind of presence cannot be faked. It must be built by consistently choosing observation over judgment. You don't need to label your feelings. You don't need to resist them. You only need to observe. That observation, over time, leads to deep inner clarity. You start to see patterns. You notice the emotions that come from fear, the ones that come from ego, the ones that come from old wounds. You stop blaming the world for how you feel. You stop blaming yourself too. You understand that emotions are a natural part of being human, but they don't have to define your choices. This emotional clarity gives you freedom. You can feel sadness without falling into despair. You can feel anger without harming anyone. You can feel joy without needing it to last. You become someone who feels everything but is owned by nothing, and that is strength. That is peace. That is the foundation of a life built on purpose, not pressure. The people who grow the most are not the ones who avoid pain. They are the ones who sit with it, observe it, learn from it, and grow beyond it. Every emotion you feel is a chance to understand yourself better. It is not an obstacle. It is a doorway, but you must walk through it with awareness, with openness, and without judgment. The moment you begin to observe what you feel without labeling it as wrong or right, you begin to free yourself from the emotional noise that clouds your mind. In that freedom, you will find peace, and in that peace, you will find the clarity to build the life you truly want. Chapter 3. Practice deep breathing to calm intense emotional reactions. There are moments in life when everything feels overwhelming. A conversation takes a sharp turn, your thoughts race ahead of your control, or your heart starts pounding after hearing a few unexpected words. In these moments, the body responds as if it's in danger, even if the threat isn't physical. The mind loses clarity, and reactions become faster than thought. You might snap, shut down, cry, or feel paralyzed. This happens because emotional reactions trigger the nervous system. When your emotions spike, your breathing changes automatically. It becomes fast, shallow, and irregular. Your chest tightens, and oxygen flow is disrupted. In these moments, deep breathing isn't just a technique. It's a decision to stay in control when everything else is pushing you toward chaos. The most immediate way to interrupt an intense emotional response is through your breath. Your breath is always available. You don't need anything else. You don't have to leave the room or wait for someone else to calm you. You can access calm directly by slowing your breathing down. This seems simple, but it has a powerful impact. The body responds to breath before it responds to thought. When you slow your breathing, you send a signal to your nervous system that says, I am safe, I am steady, I am in control. The heart rate follows, the muscles relax, the mind clears. It's not about avoiding the emotion, it's about returning to the present moment with awareness and steadiness, no matter how intense the emotion feels. Most emotional outbursts come from automatic patterns. Someone triggers you, and your body reacts instantly. You say something you regret. You storm out. You hold in your pain and pretend nothing happened. But all of these are unconscious responses that take place when the body is flooded. Your emotions speed up, and your body follows. Deep breathing works as a bridge between what you feel and how you act. It puts space between the emotion and the reaction. That space gives you the power to choose. It's in that pause that you regain control. You don't need to wait until you're in the middle of a crisis to practice deep breathing. In fact, the more you practice during calm moments, the more effective it becomes when things get difficult. You can begin by setting aside a few minutes each day to sit quietly and pay attention to your breathing. Inhale slowly through your nose. Feel your lungs expand fully. Exhale gently through your mouth. Slow and steady. Repeat. Each breath is a reminder that you are here. Each breath pulls you out of the mental noise and into the reality of this moment. With time, your body will begin to remember this pattern. It will become easier to shift into calm when emotions rise, because you've trained your nervous system to respond differently. When emotions hit, they often bring a sense of urgency. You feel like you have to act immediately. You feel pressure to speak, to react, to defend, to escape. But this urgency is misleading. It's a trick of the nervous system. You don't have to act. You don't have to solve the problem right now. What you need is a few moments of stillness to regain perspective. That stillness begins with breath. Taking a deep breath doesn't mean you're avoiding the situation. It means you're preparing to face it with composure and strength instead of reactivity. In everyday life, you can build this habit without setting aside extra time. When you wake up, take 5 deep breaths before getting out of bed. Before a conversation, pause and center yourself with a slow inhale and exhale. If your phone rings and you feel tension rise, breathe before you answer. If you're walking into a stressful situation, breathe deeply before entering. Make breathing a part of how you transition between moments. This consistency trains your body to stay calm even in difficult situations. There's a noticeable difference between reacting in a heightened emotional state and responding from a place of balance. People who practice deep breathing regularly are less likely to be controlled by anger, fear, or frustration. They are less impulsive. They listen more and speak with intention. They don't rush into emotional chaos because they know how to return to their center. They don't lose themselves in temporary emotions. They stay grounded in clarity. Breathing is not just about managing stress. It's about developing a new relationship with your emotions. Instead of being thrown around by how you feel, you develop the ability to ground yourself in what matters. You don't avoid or suppress your emotions. You meet them fully, but you do so with steadiness. You feel the anger, but you don't let it explode. You notice the sadness, but you don't collapse. You acknowledge the fear, but you don't let it guide your choices. Breathing gives you access to this strength. The emotional patterns you've developed didn't happen overnight. They came from years of reacting in the same ways. The good news is that new patterns can be created. It begins with a simple breath, one moment of awareness, one small pause, and then another. Each time you respond differently, you teach your body that it is safe to be calm. You don't need to carry emotional pain into every moment. You don't need to let your feelings control the outcome of your day. You can take a breath and begin again. Deep breathing also helps you recover faster after emotional events. Instead of staying stuck in regret, guilt, or confusion, you can return to the present moment more quickly. This allows you to move forward without carrying unnecessary emotional weight. You become more emotionally resilient, not because you don't feel deeply, but because you know how to return to a place of clarity. This return starts with breath. No one else can do it for you. It is a self-discipline that becomes a quiet strength over time. The beauty of this practice is that it belongs to you. No one can take it away. You don't need a specific environment, a teacher, or a perfect situation. You need awareness, intention, and consistency. Even during conflict, even during uncertainty, you can come back to your breath. You can pause. You can steady your mind. You can choose a better response. This is not just self-care, it is self-leadership. It is taking responsibility for your emotional state and your life. People often look for complex strategies to feel better, to find peace, or to take control of their emotions. But peace is not found in complexity, it is found in simplicity practiced consistently. Deep breathing is not a trick or a temporary fix. It is a discipline that builds your capacity to stay strong under pressure. It is an anchor in the middle of emotional waves. The more you return to it, the more natural it becomes. Every time you take a deep breath, you remind yourself that you are not powerless. You remind yourself that you have the ability to choose a different path. The emotion might still be there, but you are no longer lost in it. You are aware, you are steady, you are calm, and from that place, you can take action that aligns with who you truly are, not with who your emotions temporarily make you feel like. Your breath is your strength. Use it. Practice it. Trust it. In the middle of a heated moment, when everything feels like it's falling apart, one breath can begin the shift. One breath can change the outcome. One breath can bring you back to yourself. Chapter 4. Challenge negative thoughts to shift your emotional state. Your thoughts shape how you feel, and how you feel shapes how you act. If you carry a pattern of negative thinking, your emotional state will constantly reflect fear, doubt, frustration, and hopelessness. Many people don't realize how deeply their thinking influences their mood and direction in life. They accept every negative thought as truth, without questioning its accuracy or purpose. Thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," "nothing ever works for me," or "I'll never change," repeat in their minds until those beliefs become part of their identity. But none of these thoughts are facts. They are interpretations shaped by your past, your fears, and your conditioning. If you never challenge them, you remain stuck. But if you learn to question them, you create space for new emotions and better decisions. Most negative thoughts appear automatically. They show up without invitation, and often without your awareness. You may wake up and immediately think the day will be hard. You may make a small mistake and immediately think you're a failure. You may be faced with a new opportunity and quickly convince yourself you're not ready. These thoughts feel normal because they've been repeated so many times, but repetition doesn't equal truth. It only means familiarity. What feels true isn't always accurate. Your mind can lie to you when it's afraid, and most negative thinking comes from fear, not from facts. To begin shifting your emotional state, you must notice the thoughts you're entertaining and question whether they deserve your attention. It starts with awareness. Pay attention to the thoughts that pass through your mind throughout the day. Listen to the way you talk to yourself when you're frustrated, tired, or uncertain. When a negative thought appears, stop and ask, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Is it based on current reality, or is it shaped by something that happened in the past? If someone else said this to me, would I accept it? Negative thoughts often go unchallenged because people believe that if a thought exists, it must be meaningful. But thoughts are not facts. They are suggestions. You are not obligated to follow them. You can challenge them. You can interrupt them. You can replace them with something more grounded and useful. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to be blindly positive. It means being honest. For example, if your mind says, "I always mess everything up," you don't have to accept that. You can respond with, "No, I've made mistakes like everyone else, but I've also grown and learned. I'm not the same person I was a year ago." That shift matters. It turns an emotional spiral into a moment of strength. The mind tends to exaggerate when it's in a negative loop. It uses words like always, never, everyone, and no one. These are rarely accurate, but they heighten emotion and increase pressure. When you catch your thoughts, using those extremes, pause, ask for evidence. What specific situations prove this thought? What situations disprove it? What would a more accurate way of thinking look like? When you do this consistently, you retrain your brain to think with balance instead of panic. Challenging negative thoughts isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about reclaiming your mental freedom. You don't have to live in constant inner criticism. You don't have to carry self-defeating beliefs from your past into your present. You don't have to let your mind keep replaying everything that went wrong. You have the power to direct your thinking. You have the ability to correct thoughts that are hurting your progress. This isn't just helpful, it's necessary for anyone who wants to create lasting change. Your emotional state is deeply connected to the thoughts you feed. If you allow fear-based thoughts to go unchallenged, your emotional life will be filled with anxiety. If you believe every self-critical thought your mind throws at you, you'll feel unworthy and discouraged. But if you learn to speak back to those thoughts with clarity and strength, your emotions begin to follow a new path. You start feeling calmer, more confident, and more capable, not because your life is perfect, but because your mind is finally supporting your growth instead of resisting it. It helps to write down negative thoughts as they appear. Seeing them on paper takes away their power. It allows you to observe them from a distance instead of being consumed by them. Once written, you can respond to each thought as if you were helping a friend. What would you say to someone else who believed that about themselves? What advice would you give? That same wisdom applies to you. Over time, this becomes a habit. Instead of believing everything your mind tells you, you learn to listen, reflect, and decide what deserves your belief and what doesn't. Challenging your thoughts also means being willing to let go of old stories. Many people hold on to beliefs about themselves that are outdated. They believe they can't succeed because they failed once before. They think they're unlovable because someone walked away. They think they're weak because they struggled in the past. These stories are not the full truth. They are moments in time that your mind has turned into identity. You can choose to write a new story. You can acknowledge the pain without letting it define your worth. You can remember your failures without making them your future. Changing your thinking is not about being unrealistic. It's about being clear. Negative thinking clouds your perception. It makes you believe things are worse than they are. It convinces you to give up when progress is still possible. When you challenge a negative thought, you're not denying what happened. You're putting it into perspective. You're reminding yourself that the story isn't over. You still have time. You still have power. You still have a choice. You don't have to wait for someone else to validate you. You can begin building a mental environment that supports your growth. Every time you catch a thought that drags you down, stop and reframe it. Every time your mind attacks your ability, remind yourself of your strength. Every time doubt rises, ground yourself in action. Don't let your mind become your biggest enemy. Train it to become your ally. Start small. Pick one negative thought that comes up often. Write it down. Challenge it directly. Replace it with a thought that's honest but empowering. Then repeat. Make this a daily practice. Your mind will resist at first, especially if you've lived with these thoughts for years. But consistency creates change. The more often you challenge the old patterns, the weaker they become. Eventually, they stop showing up with the same intensity. Your mind starts creating new thoughts, more accurate, more supportive, more encouraging. This shift in thinking won't just change your emotions, it will change your behavior. When you feel better about yourself, you take more risks. When your thoughts support your effort, you stay consistent longer. When your beliefs are rooted in possibility, you stop settling for less. Success becomes more accessible, not because you become someone different, but because your mind stops working against you. Your mental habits shape your emotional life. If you want peace, confidence, and strength, you must feed your mind with thoughts that align with those outcomes. That means catching every thought that makes you feel small and questioning its value. It means refusing to repeat old beliefs that keep you stuck. It means choosing clarity over self-criticism. Every time you do this, you shift your emotional state, you take back control, you move forward with awareness, and you begin to build a mind that serves your success, not your fear. Chapter 5. Develop daily mindfulness habits to increase emotional awareness. Most people go through their day reacting without understanding why they feel what they feel. They move from task to task, thought to thought, often without pausing to notice what's actually going on inside. This lack of awareness builds emotional confusion. You start to feel overwhelmed, irritated, or discouraged. But you can't quite explain why. You end up blaming external situations, but the real issue is that your inner world hasn't been properly observed. To gain emotional control, you first need emotional awareness, and that awareness doesn't just happen randomly. It's built through the consistent practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment without rushing to judge or change it. It's the opposite of autopilot. It's a skill that helps you stay grounded instead of being dragged around by every thought or emotion that passes through your mind. When you practice mindfulness every day, even in small doses, you begin to recognize the early signs of stress, frustration, anxiety, and fear before they take over. You create space between the emotion and your response, and in that space, you have the power to choose a better direction. One of the biggest benefits of mindfulness is that it helps you catch your emotional reactions before they grow into problems. Let's say someone says something that bothers you. Without mindfulness, you might immediately respond with irritation or withdraw in silence. But with regular mindfulness practice, you start to notice your body tightening or your heart rate increasing. You notice the emotion rising, but you don't act on it impulsively. Instead, you pause, take a breath, and observe what's really happening. That simple pause, that short window of awareness, changes everything. It allows you to respond from clarity, not from pressure. Mindfulness can be practiced in many ways. You don't need to sit cross-legged for an hour every morning. You can bring mindful attention to your daily routines. When you brush your teeth, notice the sensation. When you drink water, feel it move down your throat. When you're walking, observe the movement of your legs, the rhythm of your breath, the sounds around you. These moments may seem small, but they teach your mind to return to the present instead of chasing worry or regret. Over time, this becomes a habit that supports emotional balance throughout your day. One of the most effective ways to practice mindfulness is to take 5 minutes in the morning to sit quietly and focus on your breath. You don't have to do anything complicated. Just sit still, close your eyes, and pay attention to each inhale and exhale. When your mind wanders, and it will gently bring your focus back to your breath. That's the training. You're teaching your mind to return, again and again, no matter how many times it drifts. This simple exercise builds your mental muscle. It helps you stay focused, grounded, and less reactive in emotionally charged situations. As your mindfulness deepens, you become more honest about your emotions. You stop denying how you feel just to keep up appearances. You become aware of tension before it turns into anger. You notice sadness before it becomes hopelessness. You understand the root of your emotional shifts instead of just reacting to the surface symptoms. That awareness is powerful because it gives you options. It gives you time. It gives you room to grow. Mindfulness also reduces the tendency to judge yourself harshly. When you practice observing your emotions without labeling them as good or bad, you start to accept your humanity. You stop fighting your feelings. You begin to see that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent definitions of who you are. This helps you experience emotional states without drowning in them. You can feel anxiety without becoming anxious. You can feel anger without becoming angry. The feeling is there, but it doesn't own you. Daily mindfulness also improves your relationships. When you're more aware of your own emotions, you become more sensitive to others. You notice when someone else is struggling, even if they don't say it out loud. You become a better listener. You respond with patience instead of frustration, and because you're less reactive, your interactions carry less conflict and more understanding. Mindfulness builds emotional maturity, which is essential for strong, healthy connections. You might think you're too busy to be mindful, but the truth is, you're never too busy to pay attention. Mindfulness doesn't add tasks to your day. It changes how you experience the ones you already do. It shifts your focus from rushing through everything to being present with what's in front of you. Whether you're eating, working, driving, or resting, you can bring your full attention to that moment. That presence creates calm. It invites clarity. It gives your nervous system a break from constant mental pressure. You don't need perfection to benefit from mindfulness. You just need consistency. You don't have to eliminate all distractions. Just notice when you're distracted and return to the present. You don't have to feel peaceful all the time. Just keep showing up for the practice. Every time you bring yourself back to the now, you're strengthening your emotional awareness. You're becoming more skilled at living with your feelings instead of running from them. Over time, mindfulness becomes less of a practice and more of a way of living. You find yourself reacting less and reflecting more. You stop needing every situation to go your way in order to stay balanced. You gain the ability to sit with discomfort without falling apart. You make better decisions because you're not acting from stress. You build confidence in your emotional strength, not because you never feel anything difficult, but because you've learned how to feel deeply without being overwhelmed. The goal is not to control every emotion you feel. The goal is to understand those emotions as they arise, so they don't control you. Mindfulness teaches you how to tune into yourself without panic. It gives you tools to recognize, accept, and move through your emotional experiences with grace and courage. It reminds you that emotional awareness is not a gift some people are born with. It's a skill that anyone can build. You don't need to wait for a crisis to start paying attention to your emotions. You can begin now. You can decide that today you'll slow down for a few minutes and check in with yourself. You can choose to be fully present with your next conversation, your next walk, your next meal. You can stop treating mindfulness like a luxury and start treating it like the foundation of a better life. By making mindfulness a daily habit, you train your mind to stay centered. You give yourself a clear view of your emotional landscape, and with that clarity, you gain the power to respond to life in ways that bring peace, growth, and fulfillment. You stop letting your emotions control your direction, and you start letting awareness guide your steps. That shift, small as it seems at first, is what changes everything. Chapter 6. Replace destructive feelings with empowering and positive actions. Sometimes, emotions build up so fast and so heavy that they start to control how you speak, how you move, and how you treat yourself and others. When you carry feelings like anger, shame, guilt, or resentment for too long, they begin to shape your identity. You no longer see them as temporary states. You start seeing them as who you are, And once that happens, it's easy to believe you're stuck. But you're not stuck. You're simply repeating the same emotional response over and over, without creating a new action to interrupt it. Destructive emotions can't be removed by force. You can't simply tell yourself to stop feeling anxious or stop feeling defeated. That doesn't work, and it only leads to more inner conflict. But what does work, what changes your inner environment, is action. When you take a positive step, even when you don't feel like it, you create a shift. You remind your body and your mind that you're not powerless. You teach yourself that no emotion, no matter how intense, is permanent if you refuse to feed it. Taking action is not about pretending to be okay. It's about doing something constructive in spite of how you feel. When you're overwhelmed by self-doubt, instead of sinking deeper into it, you can choose to do one thing that moves you forward. That might mean reaching out to someone you trust. It might mean standing up and going for a walk. It might mean writing down what you're thinking to clear your head. Each of these actions is small, but each one pulls energy away from the negative emotion and channels it into progress. There's a reason why destructive emotions feel so heavy. They demand all your attention. They want you to sit with them and replay everything that hurts or scares you. And if you do, they grow stronger. But the moment you act in a way that supports your growth, that emotion loses its grip. You take control of your direction again. You stop being a passive observer of your feelings and start being an active participant in your life. Empowering actions don't have to be complicated or grand. You don't need a full plan or a perfect strategy. You just need to move. If your mind is racing with worry, do something that requires your hands wash dishes, clean a corner of your room, organize something that's been bothering you. If you're feeling worthless, take a moment to do one thing well. Write something, fix something, help someone. These may seem like simple tasks, but they are powerful because they redirect your energy towards something that proves your capability. Replacing destructive emotions doesn't mean avoiding how you feel. You still acknowledge what's happening inside you, but you don't let it stop you. You can be disappointed and still make a smart choice. You can feel rejected and still move with dignity. You can be heartbroken and still treat yourself with care. Emotional maturity isn't about feeling good all the time. It's about refusing to let painful emotions lead you down destructive paths. There's a kind of healing that only happens when you act against the emotion that wants to destroy you. For example, if bitterness is growing inside you, do something generous. If jealousy is creeping in, focus on improving something in your own life. If fear is holding you back, take a small step forward in spite of it. These actions don't remove the emotion immediately, but they interrupt the pattern. They prevent the emotion from becoming your default response. And over time, they create a new emotional baseline, one that's rooted in strength instead of reaction. Many people wait for motivation before they act. They think they need to feel good in order to do good. But the truth is, action creates emotion more often than emotion creates action. When you act in an empowering way, your emotions begin to shift to match that behavior. You start to feel proud, calm, focused, not because those feelings appeared on their own, but because your actions created a foundation for them. Sometimes your emotions lie to you. They tell you you're not capable, that no one cares, that you've already failed. But when you move in the direction of growth anyway, you challenge those lies. You don't need to argue with them. You just need to act in a way that proves them wrong. And every time you do, your inner voice gets stronger. You start to believe in yourself again, not because you waited for the emotion to change, but because you chose a new behavior that changed your emotional environment. Positive actions also help you build momentum. When you're in a destructive emotional state, You often feel frozen. You feel like nothing will help. But once you take that first empowering step, the second one becomes easier, and then the third. And before you know it, you've built a string of moments where you didn't surrender to the negative emotion. You moved, you chose, you acted with purpose. That momentum becomes a new habit, and that habit becomes a new way of living. You also start to realize that many destructive feelings are reactions to situations you're no longer in. You're still carrying emotions from conversations that ended weeks ago, decisions you already made, or disappointments that have long passed. When you take present actions, you bring your mind back to the now. You remind yourself that what happened then doesn't have to define what happens next. The present moment is where your power lives, and you access it through action. There will always be moments when emotions feel overwhelming. That's part of being human. But what defines your growth is how you respond. Do you freeze and replay the pain, or do you stand up and take one small action that brings you closer to the person you want to be? Every time you choose that second path, you weaken the destructive pattern and strengthen your inner leadership. Eventually, you stop seeing yourself as someone who is constantly battling emotions, and you start seeing yourself as someone who knows how to navigate them. Not with perfection, not without struggle, but with a growing sense of trust in your ability to respond with clarity and courage. The most important thing to remember is that emotions are not permanent facts. They are temporary reactions. They don't have the final word unless you give it to them. When you choose empowering actions, even when you feel low, you write a new script. You tell yourself and the world that you're not just a container for emotions, you're a creator of change, and that mindset will serve you every single day of your life. Chapter 7. Set clear boundaries to protect your emotional energy daily. When you go through your day without knowing your limits, it becomes easy for other people to take more than you're willing to give, not because they're trying to hurt you, but because you haven't made it clear where your lines are. That's what boundaries do. They help you define what's okay and what's not okay, not just for others, but for yourself. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It's how you preserve your peace. It's how you make sure that your emotional energy doesn't get drained by demands, expectations, or habits that don't serve your well-being. You may think that saying yes to everything makes you kind or easy to be around, but the truth is, saying yes to everything often means you're saying no to yourself. You lose touch with what matters to you because you're constantly reacting to what others need or want, and little by little, your energy begins to fade. You become irritated, resentful, exhausted, not because others are unkind, but because you haven't taken responsibility for managing your space. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They're rules that help you decide how you want to show up and what you're willing to accept. They protect your energy so you can be present where it truly matters. Without boundaries, even the smallest requests can feel like heavy demands. You start avoiding people, ignoring messages, or doing things half-heartedly because you feel overwhelmed. But once you set clear limits, you don't have to dread those interactions anymore. You know where you stand, and you give from a place of strength rather than pressure. To create boundaries that protect your emotional energy, you have to start by being honest with yourself. What drains you? What situations leave you feeling depleted? What kind of conversations do you walk away from feeling anxious or upset? You have to notice these patterns because they're telling you where you need limits. Don't ignore that quiet discomfort. It's your body signaling that something isn't working. You don't have to wait for a breakdown to make a change. You can start protecting your energy now. One of the biggest challenges people face with boundaries is fear. Fear of disappointing someone, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing connection. But what's often overlooked is the cost of not setting them. When you say yes to things that go against your values, when you stay silent about your needs, when you let guilt guide your decisions, you start to disappear from your own life. Your emotional balance suffers. You're constantly giving and rarely receiving, and eventually the version of yourself you're offering to others is tired, bitter, and disconnected. Clear boundaries don't push people away. They show others how to treat you. They create trust because people know where you stand, and more importantly, they help you trust yourself. When you say, "This is what I can give," and you stick to it, you reinforce your own sense of self-respect. You no longer need to explain yourself in detail or over-apologize for having limits. You speak with clarity, and that clarity becomes a form of emotional protection. Boundaries also help you make better choices with your time and attention. When you have clear limits, you stop wasting energy on things that don't align with your priorities. You don't stay in conversations that drain you. You don't agree to events that leave you feeling disconnected. You don't engage in arguments that go nowhere. You choose where your energy flows, and that choice shapes the quality of your life. Protecting your emotional energy isn't something you do once. It's a daily practice. Every time you choose rest over overcommitment, you reinforce your boundary. Every time you walk away from a toxic conversation, instead of trying to fix it, you're protecting your peace. Every time you say, "I'm not available for that," instead of squeezing yourself into someone else's urgency, you're reminding yourself that your well-being matters too. It's also important to remember that not all boundaries are spoken. Some are lived. You don't always need to have a serious conversation to set a limit. Sometimes, you simply act differently. You don't engage in gossip. You stop explaining yourself when someone challenges your decision. You stop chasing people who consistently ignore your needs. These quiet boundaries are just as powerful as the ones you verbalize. They send a message, not through words, but through consistent action. Setting boundaries also teaches you emotional responsibility. You stop blaming others for how you feel, because you begin to see where you allowed too much, and that awareness empowers you to do better next time. You start responding rather than reacting. You stop trying to fix others and start focusing on your own choices. And in that space, you create a sense of peace that no one else controls. It can be uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilt. You might second-guess yourself. You might worry that others will see you differently. But growth is uncomfortable, and honoring your boundaries is part of that growth. It's not your job to keep everyone happy. It's your job to take care of your energy so that when you do give, it comes from a place of truth, not obligation. As you get better at setting boundaries, you also get better at recognizing when others don't have them. You see how some people expect more than you're able to give. You notice when someone tries to make you feel responsible for their mood. You recognize manipulation wrapped in politeness, and instead of falling into those traps, you hold your line. You stay grounded in what you know is right for you. Boundaries create emotional freedom. They help you stop living for other people's approval and start living in alignment with your own values. They reduce anxiety because you no longer feel torn between what you want and what others expect. They increase confidence because you start making decisions that reflect your truth, and they build stronger relationships because the people who stay in your life after you set boundaries are the ones who truly respect you. Protecting your emotional energy isn't selfish, it's necessary. You cannot live a meaningful life if you are constantly drained by things that don't serve you. You cannot offer your best to others if you are exhausted from trying to please everyone. You cannot feel calm, clear, and focused if you are always available for anything that comes your way. But boundaries are how you create space for your real self to grow, and they are one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't need to over-explain. You simply need to honor them. Every day, you have the right to decide what deserves your time, attention, and energy. And the more you do that, the stronger and more emotionally resilient you become. Not because the world changes, but because you finally start showing up for yourself in a way that says, I matter. Chapter 8. Accept uncomfortable emotions to reduce their power over you. Most people spend their lives running from how they feel. They distract themselves, deny what's happening inside, or try to force positivity on top of real emotional pain. But emotions that are pushed away don't disappear. They wait, and they grow stronger in the dark. When you avoid what hurts, you give it more control. It leaks into your thoughts, your habits, your choices. You start reacting without understanding why. You feel heavy, agitated, numb, or distant from yourself. The truth is, emotions are not problems to be fixed. They are signals. And the more you allow yourself to feel what's uncomfortable, the less power those feelings have over your life. Accepting difficult emotions doesn't mean you enjoy them. It doesn't mean you welcome pain or invite chaos. It means you stop pretending those emotions shouldn't exist. You recognize that frustration, sadness, fear, loneliness, and shame are all part of being human. No one is immune to emotional pain. No one gets through life without moments of vulnerability. And pretending that you should always feel good is not strength. It's self-deception. Growth begins when you stop fighting your inner world and start facing it with honesty. You can't heal what you refuse to feel. That's not just a phrase, it's a fact. If you don't give yourself permission to feel sadness, you'll never understand what it's trying to teach you. If you keep avoiding your anxiety, it will continue to shape your decisions. If you shut down your anger, it will come out in ways you can't control. But when you slow down, take a breath, and say to yourself, this is how I feel right now, something powerful happens. You reclaim your space. You stop letting the emotion drive your behavior. You begin to hold it gently, without judgment, and that alone changes its intensity. A lot of emotional pain becomes heavier because we attach shame to it. You think you shouldn't feel that way. You believe your reaction is wrong. You try to act fine while struggling inside. But emotions aren't moral. They're not good or bad. They just are. And when you allow yourself to feel without labeling the emotion as a failure, it becomes much easier to process. You give yourself grace. You start to understand that feeling overwhelmed doesn't mean you're weak. Feeling hurt doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're aware. It means your heart is still open enough to be moved. People often suppress emotions because they're afraid of being consumed by them. But the truth is, emotions pass faster when they're acknowledged. Avoidance stretches out the pain. It creates inattention and constant background stress. On the other hand, when you sit with an emotion, when you observe it, name it, and allow it to be there, it moves. It might feel intense for a moment, but intensity is not the same as danger. You can survive strong emotions you already have, and the more often you allow yourself to fully feel them, the more trust you build with yourself. There is also a difference between feeling an emotion and acting on it. Accepting discomfort doesn't mean letting it control your behavior. You can feel anger without lashing out. You can feel sadness without isolating. You can feel fear without quitting. Acceptance gives you space to respond rather than react. It creates a pause where you can breathe, reflect, and make conscious choices. You learn to carry your emotions instead of letting them carry you. It takes practice to do this. At first, it feels unfamiliar. You might sit in silence and feel your chest tighten. Your mind might resist and tell you to get up, check your phone, distract yourself. But if you stay, if you breathe through it, you'll start to notice that even the most uncomfortable feelings rise and fall like waves. No emotion lasts forever, and once you know you can sit through it, you become less afraid of it next time. That fear is what gives the emotion its power. Take away the fear, and you're left with something manageable. Another reason acceptance matters is because emotions often come with messages. Your discomfort might be pointing to something unresolved. Your irritation might be telling you that a boundary has been crossed. Your grief might be asking you to slow down and reflect. But you can't hear any of this if you're busy suppressing it. By making space for uncomfortable emotions, you begin to understand what they're trying to say. You connect with yourself more deeply. You learn what you need, what hurts, and what you've been avoiding. Acceptance also creates emotional resilience. The more you face what's hard, the more capable you become. You stop expecting life to be easy all the time. You stop chasing perfect conditions, and instead you become steady. When pain comes, you don't panic. When fear rises, you don't run. You recognize the feeling, you allow it, and you keep going. That kind of emotional stability can't be faked. It's earned through practice and presence. It's how you move from emotional chaos to calm clarity. There's also freedom in acceptance. When you stop resisting what you feel, you free up energy that was being used to fight your reality. You feel lighter, not because the emotion disappeared, but because you stopped battling it. You start showing up in your life more honestly. You speak more clearly. You listen more fully. You stop pretending to be fine when you're not. And that honesty strengthens your relationships. People trust you more when you're real. And most importantly, you begin to trust yourself. Sometimes emotions don't make sense right away. You may feel low without a clear reason. You may feel restless, even when everything around you is calm. Instead of trying to explain it away, allow it. Let yourself feel what's present, even if it's vague. Even if you don't understand it yet. You don't need to solve every feeling. Some emotions just need to be witnessed. They need your patience, not your solutions. And over time, their meaning becomes clearer. By accepting uncomfortable emotions, you build a new relationship with yourself. You stop being someone who runs from pain and become someone who grows through it. You learn to treat yourself with compassion rather than criticism. You hold space for your feelings instead of silencing them. And in that space, healing happens naturally, not by force, but by presence. Not through perfection, but through permission. Every time you choose to feel what's real, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself that you are strong enough to sit with sadness, to breathe through fear, to move through anger without losing yourself. You stop being a victim of emotion and become the observer. And with that awareness, you begin to shape your emotional world instead of being shaped by it. This is how you take your power back. Not by avoiding the storm inside you, but by standing in the middle of it with your eyes open and your heart steady. You realize you are not the emotion, you are the one who can feel it and still keep going. And that shift, that quiet courage to feel, is what creates lasting peace. Chapter 9. Use journaling regularly to understand and process your feelings. Most people carry thoughts and feelings they never speak out loud. They move through their days with silent weight on their shoulders, emotions they don't understand, worries that seem to repeat, and patterns that feel stuck no matter how hard they try to break them. They want clarity but feel confused. They crave peace but stay restless. They long to feel connected to themselves, but don't know where to begin. That's where journaling comes in, not as a routine task, not as a way to keep track of your to-do list, but as a space where your truth can live without filters, judgment, or pressure. When you write things down, you create a mirror for your mind. You start to see your inner world with more honesty. You notice what you've been avoiding. You name emotions you couldn't describe before. You begin to recognize patterns that used to stay hidden beneath the surface. The act of writing slows your thinking just enough to understand it. It turns what feels chaotic into something you can observe, work with, and eventually move beyond. Journaling doesn't require perfect words. You're not writing for anyone else. You don't have to sound wise, deep, or polished. You just have to show up with your truth in that moment. Whether your thoughts feel messy, raw, uncertain, or incomplete, they belong on the page, because getting them out of your head is the first step toward processing them. Holding it all inside only makes it heavier. But when you write, you give your thoughts a place to land, and that alone makes room for relief. Sometimes you don't realize how much something is bothering you until you see it in writing. You might think you're fine until you begin describing your day and notice the frustration in your tone, or you might uncover sadness that had no outlet, and the moment you write it down, it starts to soften. Other times, journaling helps you catch the beliefs driving your emotions. You begin to hear the voice in your head more clearly, the one that tells you you're not doing enough, not good enough, not where you're supposed to be. And when that voice shows up on paper, you can finally talk back to it. Journaling helps you slow down enough to hear your own wisdom. Beneath the noise of daily life, your mind and body are always trying to tell you something. Maybe you've been ignoring the fact that you feel burned out. Maybe there's a relationship that's taking more from you than it gives. Maybe there's a dream you've buried under layers of doubt. Writing helps you peel back those layers, not all at once, but piece by piece. And the more honest you are with yourself, the more clear your next steps become. You don't have to write for hours. Even 10 minutes can change your state of mind. The key is consistency, not length. You're building a habit of emotional check-in, a daily ritual where you turn inward and ask yourself, what's going on with me today? You may write about what happened, how you reacted, what triggered you, or what gave you peace. Over time, your journal becomes a safe space where you can tell the truth when the world expects you to perform. It becomes your anchor in the storm, your quiet place of self-connection. When emotions are intense, writing can be a release. If you're overwhelmed with anger, sadness, or anxiety, picking up your journal gives those emotions a place to move. You don't have to make sense of them right away. You don't need to fix them on the spot. Just express them. Put the tension into words. Let the page absorb what you've been holding in. The relief you feel afterward isn't just emotional, it's physiological. Your nervous system begins to settle. Your breath deepens. You stop bracing yourself and start letting go. Journaling also strengthens your emotional vocabulary. The more you write, the better you get at describing how you feel. Instead of just saying, "I'm stressed," you start to recognize the difference between feeling anxious, irritated, overwhelmed, or unmotivated. That level of clarity matters. Because when you can name your emotions accurately, you can respond to them more effectively. You know whether you need rest, boundaries, connection, or action. You stop guessing and start listening to yourself with precision. Some days, your journal might be full of questions. Why do I keep repeating this pattern? Why did that conversation bother me so much? Why am I so restless when everything seems fine? Asking questions on the page invites self-reflection in a deeper way. You don't need all the answers immediately, but by writing the questions, you begin to uncover your own wisdom. Insights surface in ways you didn't expect. and over time, you start to see how much you've grown. You can also use journaling to capture your wins, those small moments of courage, clarity, or joy that often go unnoticed. Writing about what went well trains your mind to focus on progress. It helps you build emotional resilience by reminding you of your strength. On hard days, looking back on those entries can be a powerful reminder that you've overcome challenges before and can do it again. Your journal becomes not just a container for pain, but a record of your growth. No one needs to read what you write. You don't need to keep it forever. Some people burn their pages after writing as a way to release what they've written. Others keep their journals for years and reflect on how far they've come. Both approaches are valid. The point is not what happens to the pages. The point is what happens to you in the process. You shift from being emotionally reactive to emotionally aware. You stop running from your feelings and start learning from them. There's no single way to journal. Some days you might write freely, pouring everything onto the page. Other days, prompts can help guide your focus. You might ask, "What's been heavy on my mind lately?" Or, "What emotion am I resisting?" Or, "What do I need most today?" These kinds of questions open the door to insight, and as you answer them honestly, you begin to build a stronger relationship with yourself. That relationship becomes the foundation of emotional strength. Journaling is not about being perfect, it's about being present. It's about giving yourself permission to show up just as you are. Over time, it becomes a form of emotional hygiene, something you do not because you're broken, but because you value your inner world enough to care for it. You don't need to wait until things fall apart to start writing. In fact, journaling regularly can help prevent emotional overwhelm. It keeps your inner world clear and open, like a room you return to daily to sweep the dust away. The page is always there. It doesn't judge. It doesn't interrupt. It doesn't rush you. It offers space, quiet, open, patient space for you to say what you need to say. And in that space, healing happens. Not with noise or drama, but with quiet honesty. Each entry you write becomes a thread in your emotional fabric, strengthening the connection between your thoughts and your truth. And that connection changes everything. It gives you clarity. It gives you peace. Most of all, it gives you back to yourself. Chapter 10. Visualize success to create positive emotional momentum. Before anything real can change in your life, it has to shift in your mind. The way you see your future has a powerful influence on how you feel, how you act, and what you expect from yourself. When you start visualizing success clearly and consistently, you begin building emotional momentum in a direction that energizes you. You don't have to wait for results to feel progress. The mind doesn't distinguish between real experiences and vividly imagined ones. When you see yourself succeeding, when you feel it, hear it, and believe it, you begin aligning your thoughts and emotions with the reality you want to create. Most people focus too much on what's going wrong. They replay failures, they predict disappointment, they imagine worst-case scenarios. And over time, that internal focus starts to shape how they show up in life. Their energy gets smaller, their confidence thins out, their effort becomes half-hearted. What they feel on the inside bleeds into how they act on the outside. That's why visualizing success isn't wishful thinking. It's emotional training. It's preparing your inner world to support your goals instead of resisting them. When you sit down, close your eyes, and mentally walk through a version of yourself that is calm, capable, and winning, something changes inside. You stop reacting to fear and start responding to possibility. You activate belief, even if it's just a flicker at first. You begin to feel what success would actually feel like, not in a fantasy sense, but in a grounded, emotional way. And that feeling, when repeated daily, becomes fuel. It creates forward motion in your thoughts. It makes your next action feel more natural, not forced. This isn't about pretending life is perfect or avoiding challenges. Visualization doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means training your mind to work with you, not against you. When you picture yourself handling setbacks with clarity, recovering from mistakes with resilience, and staying focused under pressure, you're not denying life's difficulties. You're practicing your strength. You're programming your mind to hold a vision of yourself that's rooted in capability, not helplessness. The best time to visualize is when you're quiet, calm, and undistracted. Just a few minutes a day can begin shifting your emotional baseline. Picture yourself waking up with intention. See yourself speaking with confidence. Imagine completing the work you care about with focus and satisfaction. Go beyond the surface. Feel the emotional weight of those moments. Imagine the pride, the gratitude, the sense of fulfillment that comes with progress. The more clearly you feel it now, the easier it becomes to pursue later. Visualizing success also helps override self-doubt. If you keep seeing yourself fail in your mind, you start believing it's inevitable. But if you keep seeing yourself succeed, even if just for a few minutes each day, you begin giving yourself a new emotional reference point. You're no longer stuck with old mental loops of insecurity. You're creating fresh pathways, and each time you walk through that vision, your belief gets a little stronger. Not because anything external changed, but because your internal story is starting to shift. Your mind follows what you feed it. If you constantly rehearse fear, you strengthen it. But if you start rehearsing courage, clarity, and achievement, you strengthen those instead. Visualization gives you a chance to rehearse success. It lets you experience, in advance, the mindset you'll need when real challenges come. So when those moments arrive, they don't feel foreign. You've already practiced your response. You've already walked through that emotional territory, and that preparation makes your confidence feel earned, not forced. There's power in repetition. The more often you see yourself succeeding, the more familiar it becomes, and familiarity breeds emotional safety. Most people avoid change, not because they lack ability, but because they fear the unknown. Visualization reduces that fear by making the new path feel less foreign. You're creating emotional comfort around progress. And when progress feels emotionally safe, you're far more likely to pursue it consistently. Even small, simple visualizations matter. You don't have to imagine yourself on a stage or running a business unless that's part of your goal. Maybe it's just seeing yourself handling a tough conversation with grace. Maybe it's imagining yourself showing up on time, organized and prepared. Maybe it's picturing a calm morning routine or ending your day with a sense of completion instead of stress. These small mental rehearsals build trust in your ability to change, one emotional brick at a time. As you practice this regularly, you start to notice something subtle. Your behavior begins to follow your imagination. You make different choices. You take action with less resistance. You carry yourself with more certainty, not because something magical happened, but because you've been preparing for this version of yourself all along. It becomes easier to recognize opportunities. You move with a sense of quiet assurance, and when setbacks come, you don't crumble. You adjust and continue because your mind already knows what success feels like, and it wants to return there. Many people give up before they start, because they only focus on obstacles. Visualization reminds you of what's possible. It reminds you why the work matters. It helps you stay emotionally connected to your goals. Without that connection, It's easy to drift, to lose momentum, to settle into habits that feel comfortable but keep you stuck. But when you hold a vivid picture of your future, you have something to reach for, even on the days when motivation is low. You may not always believe fully in the image you're creating. Some days, doubt will show up. That's okay. You're not visualizing to force belief. You're doing it to grow belief. And belief is like a seed. You don't plant it once and expect a tree tomorrow. You keep watering it, you keep showing up, even if it feels slow. And over time, it starts to take root. The more emotional energy you give your vision, the more real it starts to feel, not just in your mind, but in your everyday behavior. Let it become a habit. Just like brushing your teeth or stretching your body, stretch your mind each morning. See yourself moving through the day with clarity. Imagine yourself finishing tasks with purpose. Picture conversations going well. Walk through your plans in your imagination and feel the emotions you want to bring into them. Let those feelings set the tone for how you enter your real-life moments. You'll be surprised how often they begin to match. What you imagine with emotion, you start to expect, and what you expect, you begin to create. This is how emotional momentum works. It starts as a feeling, then becomes a pattern, then shapes your reality. Not all at once, but gradually, persistently, and with deep internal alignment. Visualization isn't a shortcut. It's a tool, a way to point your inner compass towards something meaningful. And when you do it with consistency, your emotions stop pulling you back and start pushing you forward. Your mind is always creating stories. You get to choose which ones to tell. When you visualize success, you're telling yourself the story of what's possible. You're choosing to focus on growth, resilience, and clarity. And that choice, made daily, becomes a quiet but powerful force. One that doesn't just change how you think, but how you live. Chapter 11. Create routines that support emotional stability and resilience. Building a life that fosters emotional stability and resilience begins with the power of routine. Habits form the backbone of how we experience our days, shaping the energy we bring to challenges and the ease with which we recover from setbacks. Without intentional practices in place, emotions can feel unpredictable, overwhelming, and exhausting. But when routines support your emotional well-being, you create a stable foundation that makes navigating life's ups and downs less taxing and more manageable. Routines are not about rigid schedules or a to-do list that traps you. They are about consistency in the small actions that nurture your inner balance. When you develop daily habits that prioritize your emotional health, you're no longer leaving your mood to chance. Instead, you're designing an environment where resilience can grow naturally. This kind of stability does not come from avoiding difficulties, but from preparing yourself to handle them with strength and clarity. At the core of routines that support emotional stability is the commitment to self-care. This means taking time every day to engage in practices that replenish your mental and emotional energy. It might be something as simple as starting your morning with a few minutes of quiet reflection or stretching. These moments are powerful because they set the tone for how you will meet the day. A calm and grounded beginning helps reduce the tendency to react impulsively to stress later on. Consistency matters more than intensity. Showing up every day with small habits creates momentum. Even when life feels chaotic, having a few reliable rituals acts as an anchor. These could include journaling your thoughts to clear your mind, taking a walk to reconnect with your body, or practicing mindful breathing when emotions rise. Each habit sends a signal to your nervous system that you are in control and capable of managing your inner world. Physical health and emotional health are deeply connected. Regular movement, nourishing meals, and adequate sleep are not just good advice. They are essential routines that support how you feel. When your body is tired, hungry, or inactive, your emotional resilience weakens. The mind and body work as one system, and caring for both creates a stronger, more balanced you. You don't need extreme exercise or strict diets. Simple, consistent care is what counts. Another crucial element is setting boundaries within your routine. Protecting your time and emotional space helps prevent overwhelm. This might mean scheduling breaks during your workday to step away and reset. It could involve turning off notifications in the evening to avoid digital overload. It may include limiting interactions with people who drain your energy. These boundaries become part of your routine when they are practiced regularly, making them easier to maintain and more effective in preserving your peace. Resilience grows when you allow space for reflection and adjustment. Building time into your day to check in with yourself helps you notice when you're off balance. This can be a moment to ask, "What do I need right now?" or "How am I feeling?" Being honest with yourself in this way creates awareness, which is the first step to emotional regulation. Without awareness, emotions build up unnoticed until they erupt. Routines that include self-check-ins give you the chance to course correct before that happens. The people you surround yourself with also impact your emotional stability, including social connection in your routines. Whether it's a daily phone call, a weekly coffee with a friend, or a group activity, creates a support system that strengthens your resilience. Positive relationships act as a buffer against stress and provide perspective when emotions get intense. Prioritizing connection doesn't mean ignoring your needs, but balancing your time between solitude and community. When emotions are high, routines that include calming practices are essential. This might be meditation, reading, listening to music, or engaging in a hobby. These activities are not distractions. They are tools that help you regulate your nervous system and restore balance. By making these moments a regular part of your schedule, you build emotional reserves that protect you during difficult times. Over time, these practices become second nature, and you begin to respond to stress with greater ease. Routines also help build discipline. Emotional resilience requires consistent effort, and habits create the structure for that effort to happen. When you have set rituals, you don't have to rely solely on willpower or motivation. You show up for yourself automatically because your routine supports it. Discipline in emotional care is not about perfection. It's about commitment to the process, even when it feels hard or tedious. Creating routines that support your emotional well-being encourages a mindset of growth. It shifts your focus from trying to eliminate all discomfort to learning how to navigate it skillfully. You begin to see emotions not as obstacles, but as signals guiding you toward greater understanding. This mindset makes it easier to face challenges with curiosity rather than fear, turning setbacks into opportunities to strengthen your resilience. Starting these routines doesn't require a complete overhaul of your life. Begin with one small habit that feels doable. Maybe it's 5 minutes of deep breathing every morning, or writing down one thing you're grateful for before bed. Build on that habit slowly, layering one positive routine on top of another. This gradual approach prevents overwhelm and increases the likelihood of lasting change. Remember that flexibility is part of routine success. Life will throw curveballs, and some days you won't stick perfectly to your habits. That's okay. Emotional resilience includes the ability to adapt without self-criticism. When you miss a practice or feel off, return to your routine without judgment. Each time you recommit, you reinforce your emotional foundation. Ultimately, routines are the scaffolding for emotional stability and resilience. They don't guarantee you won't face challenges, but they prepare you to meet them with strength and clarity. They allow you to conserve energy, reduce chaos, and build a sense of control over your inner world. Through small, consistent actions, you create a life where emotions don't dictate your experience, but inform your growth. This foundation transforms not only how you feel each day, but how you approach the journey towards success. Chapter 12. Cultivate gratitude to transform your emotional outlook consistently. Gratitude is often misunderstood as a simple act of politeness or a fleeting feeling that comes and goes. In reality, cultivating gratitude is a powerful practice that transforms your emotional outlook on a deep and lasting level. When gratitude becomes a consistent part of your daily life, it rewires how you perceive challenges, setbacks, and even routine moments. This transformation is not about ignoring difficulties or pretending everything is perfect. It's about shifting your focus so that your mind and heart are aligned with appreciation and abundance, rather than scarcity and complaint. The way your brain is wired naturally draws your attention to what's wrong or missing. This negativity bias helped humans survive in dangerous environments by alerting them to threats. However, in modern life, this tendency can trap you in a cycle of stress, dissatisfaction, and emotional exhaustion. Without intentional practice, your mind will repeatedly scan for problems, feeding feelings of anxiety, frustration, or sadness. Gratitude interrupts this cycle by training your attention to notice what is working well, what you have, and what you can appreciate in the present moment. Starting to cultivate gratitude does not require grand gestures or dramatic changes. It begins with simple awareness. You might begin by noticing small things you usually overlook: the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the taste of a good meal, a kind word from a friend, or even the rhythm of your breath. When you pay attention to these details, you invite your mind to slow down and take stock of the positives in your life. This pause creates space for calmness and contentment to grow. The practice of gratitude also changes the stories you tell yourself. Instead of viewing challenges as purely negative, gratitude encourages you to see them as opportunities for learning or growth. For example, a difficult conversation might reveal important truths, or a failure might point you toward a better path. By finding something to be thankful for even in hardship, you build emotional resilience. Your feelings become less reactive and more grounded in perspective. Consistency is key in transforming your emotional outlook through gratitude. Making it a daily habit embeds this mindset deeply into your brain's pathways. Many people find that keeping a gratitude journal or setting aside a few moments each day to mentally list things they appreciate helps maintain this focus. Over time, what once felt like an exercise becomes a natural way of thinking. Gratitude shifts from being something you do to something you are. When gratitude is regular, it also enhances your relationships. Expressing genuine appreciation to others strengthens bonds and creates positive feedback loops. People feel seen and valued when you acknowledge their efforts or presence. This not only lifts their spirits, but also increases your own feelings of connection and happiness. Relationships built on gratitude tend to be more supportive, forgiving, and joyful. Gratitude has tangible effects on your emotional and physical health. Research shows that people who regularly practice gratitude experience lower levels of stress and depression, better sleep, and even improved immune function. These benefits arise because gratitude fosters positive emotions that counterbalance negative ones. Positive feelings release neurotransmitters that promote well-being, helping you build emotional strength over time. The emotional shift brought by gratitude changes how you respond to setbacks. Instead of feeling overwhelmed or defeated, you start to approach problems with curiosity and hope. You recognize that while the situation may be difficult, there are still aspects to be grateful for, which helps balance your emotional experience. This balance reduces impulsive reactions and encourages thoughtful decision-making. Gratitude also connects you to the present moment. When you focus on what you have now, you reduce the habit of worrying about the future or ruminating on the past. This focus on the present cultivates peace and contentment, which are essential for emotional stability. The simple act of acknowledging the good in your life anchors you in reality rather than getting lost in mental loops. It's important to note that gratitude is not about forcing yourself to feel thankful when you're hurting or struggling. Authentic gratitude allows for complexity. You can feel gratitude and pain simultaneously. This nuanced emotional awareness enriches your inner experience and prevents denial or suppression of difficult feelings. Over time, this balance makes your emotional life fuller and more integrated. Practicing gratitude also supports your motivation and perseverance. When you acknowledge progress, strengths, or resources, you create a positive feedback cycle that fuels your efforts. You are more likely to keep going because you feel supported by your own mindset. Gratitude reminds you that success is built on many small, often unseen moments of effort and support. As gratitude becomes part of your identity, it influences your choices and priorities. You become more selective about what you allow into your life, whether it's the people you spend time with, the activities you engage in, or the thoughts you entertain. You protect your emotional energy by focusing on what adds value and letting go of what drains you. This creates a virtuous cycle of positivity and growth. Gratitude also enhances your sense of purpose. Recognizing what you have and what you can contribute opens your heart to meaning beyond yourself. It encourages generosity, kindness, and compassion, which further enrich your emotional world. When you operate from a place of gratitude, your actions align with values that support long-term fulfillment. The practice of gratitude is accessible to everyone. You don't need special tools or circumstances to begin. You only need the willingness to notice and appreciate. Whether you're at work, at home, or anywhere in between, you can pause and find something to be grateful for. This simple habit, repeated day after day, has the power to transform your emotional landscape and create a more resilient, joyful life. Ultimately, cultivating gratitude is a choice, a daily decision to shift your focus from what's lacking to what's abundant. It's a way of training your mind and heart to respond to life with appreciation rather than resistance. This transformation supports emotional stability, strengthens resilience, and fosters a mindset that propels you toward lasting success. The more you practice gratitude, the more it becomes a foundation for your emotional well-being and personal growth. Chapter 13. Identify emotional triggers to prepare and respond effectively. Emotions often rise suddenly, sometimes overwhelming and unexpected, leaving you reactive rather than responsive. Understanding what triggers these intense feelings is essential for gaining control over your emotional state. When you can identify your emotional triggers clearly, you equip yourself with the ability to anticipate, prepare for, and respond effectively to situations that might otherwise knock you off balance. This awareness is a key step toward emotional mastery and long-term success. Triggers are not random. They are often connected to past experiences, unresolved wounds, or deeply held beliefs. They act as shortcuts that send your brain into fight, flight, or freeze mode without much conscious thought. Recognizing these triggers requires honest self-reflection and attentive observation of your reactions. When you notice patterns in what sets off strong feelings like anger, anxiety, or sadness, you begin to see the emotional architecture beneath your responses. To identify triggers, start by paying close attention to moments when your emotions spike. Notice the physical sensations, tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, or tension in your shoulders. These bodily cues often signal that a trigger has been activated. Also observe your thoughts in those moments. What are you telling yourself? What memories or fears surface? The combination of physical and mental signals creates a clear picture of what provokes your emotional reactions. Writing down these experiences can be immensely helpful. Keeping a journal of situations that triggered strong emotions helps you track patterns over time. Include details like where you were, who was involved, what was said, and how you felt physically and mentally. This record becomes a valuable tool for recognizing recurring themes and understanding the underlying causes of your triggers. Triggers often link to core beliefs or vulnerabilities. For example, a person who fears rejection may feel triggered when receiving criticism. Someone who worries about control may become upset in situations of uncertainty. Identifying these core issues provides insight into why certain events affect you deeply. This knowledge is powerful because it allows you to address the root cause rather than just reacting to symptoms. Once you recognize your triggers, you can begin preparing for them. Preparation involves creating strategies that help you maintain emotional balance when you face triggering situations. This might include practicing calming techniques, such as deep breathing or mindfulness in advance. It could involve setting clear boundaries to avoid unnecessarily exposing yourself to known triggers. Preparation is about strengthening your ability to pause and choose your response instead of reacting automatically. When a trigger occurs, having a plan in place makes a huge difference. Instead of being swept away by emotions, you can use grounding techniques to bring yourself back to the present. Simple actions like focusing on your breath, naming 5 things you see around you, or repeating a calming phrase can interrupt the emotional escalation. These tools give you a moment of space to choose a response aligned with your goals rather than impulses driven by the trigger. Responding effectively also means changing your narrative about the trigger. When you face a situation that usually provokes a strong reaction, remind yourself that the trigger is a signal, not a threat. Separate the present moment from past hurts that may be influencing your feelings. This cognitive shift reduces the power of the trigger and helps you respond with clarity and composure. Building emotional resilience around triggers takes time and practice. It involves being patient and compassionate with yourself as you learn to navigate your emotional landscape. Some triggers may remain intense despite your efforts, but even then, knowing what sets them off allows you to approach them with greater awareness and control. Over time, the intensity of your reactions will likely diminish as your emotional muscle grows stronger. It's also important to communicate about your triggers with those close to you when appropriate. Sharing your vulnerabilities can foster understanding and support in your relationships. When others know what affects you, they can avoid unintentional harm and help create a safer emotional environment. This openness builds trust and reduces the frequency and impact of emotional upsets. Avoiding triggers altogether is not always possible or healthy. Some situations are unavoidable, especially in work or family contexts. The goal is not to escape, but to manage your reactions in a way that preserves your emotional energy and keeps you grounded. This shift from avoidance to management is a critical milestone in emotional growth. Recognizing triggers also invites deeper healing. When you know what hurts you most, you can choose to work through those wounds rather than suppressing them. Healing reduces the intensity of triggers and opens space for emotional freedom. This process might involve therapy, self-help techniques, or support from trusted people. Healing your triggers is an investment in long-term emotional well-being. As you become more skilled at identifying and managing triggers, you'll notice an increase in your overall emotional intelligence. You'll gain better control over your moods, improve decision-making, and stronger relationships. You will find it easier to stay calm under pressure and bounce back faster from setbacks. These skills are foundational for success in every area of life. Understanding your triggers also helps you align your environment with your emotional health. You might choose to reduce exposure to toxic situations or people and seek out spaces that support your well-being. Creating such an environment is an act of self-respect that enhances your resilience and happiness. Ultimately, identifying emotional triggers is about reclaiming your power. It shifts you from being at the mercy of your feelings to being an active participant in your emotional experience. This empowerment fuels confidence and builds momentum for positive change. As you practice this awareness, you step closer to mastering your emotions and shaping the life you want with intention and calm strength. Chapter 14. Practice self-compassion to heal emotional wounds and grow. Healing emotional wounds and growing as a person begins with the practice of self-compassion. It is the simple but profound act of treating yourself with kindness when life feels hard or when you fall short of your expectations. Many people are quick to judge themselves harshly, holding on to mistakes or flaws with unforgiving eyes. This internal criticism creates additional suffering and blocks the path to recovery. Choosing self-compassion is a powerful way to break this cycle and nurture the resilience needed for lasting emotional growth. Self-compassion means accepting your imperfections and struggles without shame or blame. It's the willingness to say, "I am human, and it's okay to make mistakes." This mindset creates a safe, emotional space where healing can begin. When you stop beating yourself up over failures or setbacks, you free up energy that was trapped in guilt or regret. This energy can then be redirected toward constructive change and self-improvement. The practice of self-compassion starts with awareness. Notice how you speak to yourself in moments of difficulty. Are your thoughts harsh and unforgiving, or gentle and supportive? Becoming aware of this inner dialogue is the first step in shifting it. You might find that your self-talk mirrors how you would never speak to a close friend. Recognizing this imbalance opens the door to change. Replacing critical thoughts with compassionate ones takes practice, but is achievable. When you catch yourself thinking negatively, pause and ask how you would respond to a friend in the same situation. Chances are you would offer encouragement and understanding rather than blame. Give yourself that same kindness. Speak to yourself as you would speak to someone you care about deeply. Self-compassion also involves accepting difficult emotions without resistance. When you experience pain, sadness, or disappointment, resist the urge to push these feelings away or label them as weaknesses. Instead, allow yourself to feel fully, without judgment. This acceptance reduces the power of negative emotions and prevents them from escalating into overwhelming states. Being compassionate toward yourself means recognizing that everyone struggles. You are not alone in your imperfections or emotional wounds. This sense of common humanity reduces feelings of isolation and shame. It helps you understand that setbacks are part of the shared human experience, not personal failures. This perspective brings comfort and encouragement to keep moving forward. Incorporating self-compassion into your daily routine is essential for emotional healing. Start with small practices like writing yourself a kind letter after a difficult day or pausing to breathe deeply when negative thoughts arise. Over time, these actions build a compassionate foundation that supports your mental and emotional health. Self-compassion supports growth by reducing fear of failure. When you know you will treat yourself kindly, regardless of outcomes, you are more willing to take risks and try new things. This openness is crucial for learning and expanding your capabilities. Fear of judgment often holds people back, but compassion gives you permission to be imperfect and still valuable. This practice also strengthens your emotional resilience. When challenges arise, self-compassion acts as a cushion that absorbs some of the impact. Instead of being crushed by hardship, you are able to bounce back with more ease. Compassionate self-care replenishes your emotional resources and prepares you to face life's demands with steadiness. It is important to remember that self-compassion is not self-pity or indulgence. It does not mean excusing harmful behavior or avoiding responsibility. Instead, it means holding yourself accountable with kindness and clarity. You can recognize areas for improvement while still treating yourself with respect and understanding. Developing self-compassion changes your relationship with yourself. It transforms the inner critic into an inner coach who encourages and guides rather than tears down. This shift creates a positive feedback loop where confidence and motivation grow hand in hand with kindness. Many find that meditation or mindfulness practices enhance their ability to cultivate self-compassion. These techniques train the mind to observe thoughts and feelings without attachment or judgment. This distance allows you to respond to yourself with greater empathy and less reactivity. As you practice self-compassion, you will likely notice improvements in other areas of your life. Relationships tend to deepen because you become less dependent on external validation and more secure in your worth. Your ability to forgive others increases as you become more forgiving of yourself. Emotional wounds begin to heal, not because they disappear, but because you carry them with gentleness instead of pain. Self-compassion is a lifelong journey, not a one-time achievement. There will be days when old habits of self-criticism resurface. When this happens, remind yourself that growth is not linear. Each step forward, no matter how small, contributes to your overall healing and strength. The commitment to treat yourself with kindness even in difficult moments is what builds true emotional maturity. Ultimately, practicing self-compassion creates a foundation for sustained personal growth. It allows you to face life honestly and bravely without being overwhelmed by self-doubt or shame. This foundation supports the development of resilience, emotional clarity, and motivation that fuel long-term success. By choosing compassion over criticism, you empower yourself to heal, grow, and thrive. Chapter 15. Engage in physical activity to release emotional tension naturally. Physical activity is one of the most effective and natural ways to release emotional tension. Emotions are not just mental experiences, they have a strong physical component. Stress, anxiety, anger, and sadness can create tightness, restlessness, or heaviness in your body. When these feelings accumulate without release, they can lead to discomfort, exhaustion, or even physical health issues. Engaging your body through movement provides a powerful outlet for these emotions, helping you restore balance and clarity. The connection between the mind and body means that physical movement influences your emotional state directly. When you exercise, your brain releases endorphins and other neurotransmitters that promote feelings of well-being and reduce pain or stress. This biochemical reaction creates a natural lift in mood and reduces the intensity of negative emotions. Beyond chemicals, physical activity helps regulate your nervous system, shifting you from a state of hyperarousal to calmness. Different types of physical activity can serve different emotional needs. Aerobic exercises like running, cycling, or swimming increase heart rate and oxygen flow, which can help dissipate anxiety and agitation. Strength training provides a sense of empowerment and control, countering feelings of helplessness. Activities such as yoga or Tai Chi combine gentle movement with breath awareness, calming the mind and soothing emotional distress. The key is to find a form of movement that resonates with you and fits your lifestyle. Emotional tension often manifests as physical sensations like tight shoulders, clenched jaws, or shallow breathing. Engaging in physical activity helps release these muscular tensions and restore relaxed posture. Moving your body encourages circulation and flexibility, which can ease the buildup of stress stored in tissues. The physical release often translates into mental clarity and emotional lightness, making it easier to think clearly and respond calmly. Regular physical activity also creates a rhythm and routine that supports emotional stability. When exercise becomes a consistent habit, your body and mind adapt, leading to more balanced mood patterns throughout the day. You may notice that you feel less reactive to stresses and more able to handle challenges with patience and resilience. This consistency acts like an emotional anchor, helping you navigate life with greater ease. Starting or maintaining a physical activity routine does not require perfection or extreme effort. Even short bursts of movement, such as a brisk walk or a few minutes of stretching, can make a difference in how you feel. The important part is to listen to your body and honor its needs. Movement should feel like a release, not another source of pressure or exhaustion. This approach encourages sustainable habits that nurture your emotional well-being. Engaging in physical activity also offers distraction and mental reset. When emotions are intense, focusing on movement redirects your attention from rumination or worry to the sensations of your body. This shift can break negative thought cycles and reduce emotional overwhelm. Movement becomes a form of active meditation where you tune into the present moment rather than past regrets or future fears. Social physical activities such as group sports, dance classes, or walking with friends provide additional emotional benefits. They combine movement with connection, which enhances feelings of belonging and support. Sharing physical experiences with others fosters positive emotions like joy and gratitude. These shared moments can uplift your mood and build emotional resilience through community. Physical activity encourages you to connect with your body's signals and rhythms. Over time, you become more attuned to how different types of movement affect your emotional state. This awareness allows you to use exercise strategically, not just for physical health, but as a tool for emotional regulation. You learn to recognize when you need to slow down and soothe, or when you need to energize and activate. Some emotions may require more intense physical release. Anger, frustration, or restlessness often feel like a buildup of energy that needs an outlet. Vigorous activities like running, boxing, or jumping rope provide a safe and effective way to discharge this energy. These outlets prevent emotions from turning inward as tension or aggression and promote a healthier expression of feelings. It's important to respect your limits and avoid pushing yourself beyond what feels right. Physical activity should restore, not harm. When starting a new routine, begin gradually and build up intensity or duration slowly. Pay attention to signs of fatigue or discomfort and adjust accordingly. Prioritizing safety and self-care ensures that movement remains a positive force for emotional release. Physical activity can also support other emotional practices. Pairing movement with deep breathing or mindfulness enhances its calming effects. For example, a mindful walk where you focus on each step and breath deepens relaxation. Yoga poses, combined with breath control, improve both physical flexibility and emotional calm. Integrating these elements creates a holistic approach to managing emotional tension. Over time, engaging in physical activity develops your emotional intelligence. You become better at recognizing early signs of stress or imbalance and taking proactive steps to address them. This skill prevents emotional overload and reduces the likelihood of crises. Movement becomes a first response that maintains your emotional equilibrium rather than reacting after tension has built up. Physical activity also boosts confidence and self-esteem. Meeting movement goals, or simply honoring your body's needs, fosters a sense of accomplishment and self-respect. These positive feelings counteract self-doubt or negativity that often accompany emotional struggles. Feeling physically strong and capable translates into greater emotional strength and determination. Incorporating physical activity into your daily life encourages a mindset of care and respect for yourself. It shifts the focus from judgment of flaws to appreciation of your body's abilities and needs. This attitude supports overall emotional growth by fostering kindness and acceptance toward yourself. Physical movement also improves sleep quality, which is essential for emotional health. Restorative sleep helps regulate mood and increases resilience to stress. By releasing emotional tension through exercise, you prepare your body and mind for deeper, more restful sleep cycles. Choosing to engage in physical activity as a tool for emotional release is a practical and empowering step toward self-mastery. It offers immediate relief from emotional strain and builds a foundation for long-term stability. Movement reconnects you with your body, nurtures your mind, and balances your emotions in a natural and accessible way. Ultimately, using physical activity to release emotional tension supports the journey of personal growth and success. It helps you clear emotional blockages, regain focus, and approach challenges with renewed energy. By honoring the link between body and mind through movement, you strengthen your ability to manage emotions wisely and live with greater peace and purpose. Chapter 16. Seek constructive feedback to improve emotional intelligence continuously. Seeking constructive feedback is one of the most effective ways to grow your emotional intelligence continuously. Emotional intelligence involves understanding your own emotions, recognizing others' feelings, and managing interpersonal relationships wisely. This is a skill that requires constant refinement, and honest feedback from others plays a vital role in sharpening your self-awareness and improving your emotional responses. Without feedback, it's easy to remain unaware of blind spots or unhelpful patterns that hold you back. Feedback gives you an external perspective on how your emotions and behaviors impact those around you. Often, what you think you're expressing is different from what others perceive. By inviting feedback, you open a window into your interpersonal effectiveness and emotional habits. This information is crucial for adjusting how you communicate, regulate emotions, and build rapport. Constructive feedback focuses on behaviors and their effects, rather than personal attacks, allowing you to learn without feeling defensive. To benefit from feedback, it is important to cultivate an open and receptive mindset. This means being willing to listen without immediately judging or dismissing what is said. Even when feedback feels uncomfortable or challenges your self-image, it holds valuable insights. Viewing feedback as a gift rather than criticism transforms your attitude and encourages a growth mindset. This mindset embraces learning and improvement as ongoing processes essential for success. Asking for feedback requires courage and humility. It involves acknowledging that you do not have all the answers and that others can help you grow. Choose trusted individuals who know you well and can provide honest, respectful, and specific observations. This might include mentors, colleagues, close friends, or family members. The goal is to receive input that is clear, actionable, and focused on helping you develop your emotional skills. When you receive feedback, focus on understanding rather than defending. Ask clarifying questions, if needed, to grasp the specific behaviors or situations being discussed. This deeper understanding helps you see patterns and triggers that influence your emotional responses. Reflect on the feedback privately and consider how it aligns with your self-perception and goals. Sometimes feedback will reveal strengths you hadn't noticed, and other times it will highlight areas needing improvement. It's essential to separate your identity from your behaviors when processing feedback. Remember that the feedback addresses actions or reactions, not your worth as a person. This distinction allows you to respond with curiosity rather than shame or guilt. Emotional intelligence grows when you can observe yourself objectively and choose new ways of acting based on what you learn. Using feedback effectively means creating an action plan for change. Identify specific steps you can take to improve in the areas highlighted. For example, if feedback points to a tendency to interrupt during conversations, practice active listening and patience. If it highlights challenges managing frustration, develop calming techniques to use in difficult moments. Setting measurable and realistic goals helps you track progress and maintain motivation. Regularly seeking feedback creates a cycle of continuous improvement. The more you invite others to share their perspectives, the more opportunities you have to refine your emotional awareness and regulation. Over time, this practice builds greater empathy and understanding in your relationships. People will notice your willingness to grow and respond positively, deepening trust and cooperation. Constructive feedback also helps prevent emotional blind spots from becoming harmful patterns. Without external input, it's easy to repeat behaviors that damage connections or limit success. Feedback shines a light on these areas before they escalate, allowing you to make corrections early. This proactive approach protects your emotional health and strengthens your interpersonal skills. Incorporating feedback into your daily life encourages self-reflection. After interactions or challenging situations, review any feedback received and observe how it relates to your emotional experience. Journaling can support this process by recording insights and tracking changes over time. This habit deepens your self-awareness and keeps emotional growth intentional. It is important to balance seeking feedback with trusting your internal guidance. Feedback should complement your own observations and values, not replace them. Developing emotional intelligence requires integrating both external and internal perspectives. As you become more skilled at self-awareness, you will discern which feedback is most relevant and how best to apply it. Receiving feedback with grace also models emotional intelligence to others. When you respond calmly and appreciatively, you encourage openness and honesty in your environment. This creates a culture where learning and emotional growth are valued and supported. Being an example of receptivity to feedback fosters stronger teams, friendships, and communities. Feedback is not always easy to hear, and some may feel discouraging. In these moments, remind yourself that discomfort is part of growth. Each piece of feedback, no matter how challenging, carries an opportunity to become a better version of yourself. The commitment to continuous learning is what separates those who thrive emotionally from those who remain stuck. Seeking feedback is a form of accountability that propels you forward. It prevents stagnation and complacency by challenging you to face reality honestly. This accountability nurtures discipline and persistence, essential qualities for mastering your emotions and achieving success. Ultimately, pursuing constructive feedback is an act of self-respect and dedication to your development. It demonstrates that you value your emotional health and relationships enough to put in the effort required. This ongoing process of learning and adjusting not only improves your emotional intelligence, but also enhances your overall quality of life. By consistently inviting and applying feedback, you create a powerful foundation for emotional mastery. You grow in understanding, patience, and adaptability. This growth leads to deeper connections, better decision-making, and a more fulfilling and successful life. The willingness to seek and embrace feedback is a hallmark of emotional strength and wisdom. Chapter 17. Communicate feelings clearly to build stronger, authentic relationships. Clear communication of feelings is essential for building authentic relationships that thrive on trust and understanding. Many struggles in connections with others come not from what is said, but from what remains unspoken or misunderstood. When feelings are expressed openly and honestly, relationships deepen and misunderstandings shrink. It takes courage and practice to share emotions clearly, but doing so transforms the quality of your interactions and fosters genuine connection. Often people avoid revealing true feelings out of fear of rejection, judgment, or vulnerability. This withholding creates distance and blocks intimacy. Suppressed emotions tend to build tension and lead to passive-aggressive behaviors or sudden outbursts that damage trust. Choosing to communicate your feelings directly diffuses this tension and invites others into your experience. When you share your emotional truth calmly, you give permission for others to respond with empathy and respect. Expressing feelings clearly begins with identifying what you actually feel. Emotions are complex and sometimes layered, so take time to name them precisely. Rather than saying "I'm upset," clarify if you feel hurt, frustrated, disappointed, or anxious. This specificity helps others understand your experience without guessing or assuming. It also helps you stay connected to your inner world and speak from a place of awareness rather than reaction. Use simple and direct language to share your feelings. Avoid vague statements or blaming words that put others on the defensive. For example, instead of "you never listen to me," say "I feel unheard when I'm interrupted." This approach focuses on your emotional experience rather than criticizing behavior. It opens the door for productive dialogue and mutual understanding. Timing matters in emotional communication. Choose moments when both you and the other person are calm and able to listen. Attempting to share feelings in the heat of an argument often leads to misunderstandings or escalation. Waiting for a quiet moment shows respect for the conversation and increases the chances that your message will be received thoughtfully. Listening is as important as speaking when it comes to emotional clarity. After expressing your feelings, invite the other person to share their perspective. Be present and open to their response without preparing your rebuttal. This two-way exchange builds connection by validating each person's experience. It turns communication into a shared process rather than a one-sided declaration. Nonverbal cues play a significant role in conveying feelings. Your tone of voice, facial expressions, and body language can either reinforce or contradict your words. Ensure that your nonverbal signals match your verbal message to avoid confusion. Maintaining eye contact, an open posture, and a calm tone creates a safe space for honest sharing. Being clear about your feelings also involves setting boundaries. When certain emotions arise, you can communicate what you need from others to feel supported. For example, if you feel overwhelmed, saying "I need some quiet time to process" helps others understand how to respect your emotional space. Boundaries expressed with kindness promote mutual respect and prevent resentment. Emotional clarity requires ongoing practice and self-awareness. Journaling can support this process by helping you reflect on your feelings and prepare how to communicate them. Rehearsing difficult conversations in writing or silently can build confidence and reduce anxiety. Over time, expressing emotions clearly becomes more natural and less intimidating. Fear of vulnerability often blocks clear emotional communication. It is important to remember that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. Showing your true feelings invites deeper connection and encourages others to reciprocate. Authentic relationships thrive on honesty and openness. and your willingness to be vulnerable lays the foundation for trust. When you communicate feelings clearly, misunderstandings decrease, and conflicts become opportunities for growth. Honest sharing allows problems to surface early and be addressed constructively. It prevents the buildup of hidden resentment and fosters collaboration in finding solutions. This proactive communication strengthens relationships and deepens bonds. Clear emotional expression also enhances your self-respect. When you own your feelings and speak your truth, you honor your inner experience. This authenticity builds confidence and reduces the need to seek approval from others. You learn to advocate for yourself in ways that align with your values and emotional needs. Practicing empathy toward others' feelings is part of clear communication. When you share your emotions, you also model openness that invites others to do the same. Responding with kindness and curiosity to others' feelings strengthens mutual understanding. This cycle of empathy nurtures connection and makes relationships more resilient. Sometimes expressing feelings clearly involves difficult conversations. It may require addressing painful topics or admitting mistakes. Facing these challenges head-on with honesty demonstrates courage and commitment to the relationship. Difficult conversations handled with respect and clarity often lead to breakthroughs and healing. Technology offers new channels for emotional communication, but can also create barriers. Text messages or social media posts lack tone and nuance, increasing the risk of misinterpretation. When discussing important feelings, choose face-to-face or voice conversations whenever possible. These methods allow for richer, more nuanced exchanges and reduce misunderstandings. Learning to communicate feelings clearly has ripple effects beyond personal relationships. It improves your professional interactions by enhancing teamwork, leadership, and conflict resolution. Emotional clarity fosters respect and cooperation in any setting. The skills you develop in one area of life support growth and success in others. Patience is crucial as you develop this skill. You may encounter resistance or confusion from others not used to direct emotional communication. Stay consistent and gentle in your approach. Over time, your clarity and authenticity will inspire others to meet you with openness and respect. The process of clear emotional communication enriches your life by deepening connections and increasing emotional freedom. When you express yourself honestly, you release the burden of hiding or suppressing feelings. This liberation creates space for joy, creativity, and genuine intimacy. Your commitment to communicating feelings clearly builds a foundation for relationships that sustain and nourish you. It allows you to live in alignment with your true self and create bonds based on mutual understanding. These authentic relationships become sources of strength, support, and inspiration throughout your journey. Mastering this skill requires ongoing attention and intention. It invites you to be fully present with yourself and others in every interaction. As you continue to practice, you will find that clear emotional communication becomes a natural and empowering part of who you are. Chapter 18. Focus on solutions instead of dwelling on emotional problems. When faced with emotional problems, the most transformative choice is to focus on solutions rather than getting stuck in the problem itself. Emotional challenges are inevitable, but the way you approach them determines whether they weaken or strengthen you. Dwelling on negative feelings or fixating on what went wrong only magnifies distress and drains energy. Shifting your attention to finding constructive ways forward rewires your mind toward growth, resilience, and progress. Problems often feel overwhelming when viewed through a lens of helplessness. This mindset traps you in repetitive thoughts, anxieties, and frustrations that prevent clear thinking. By consciously choosing to look for solutions, you regain a sense of control and agency. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstance, you become an active participant in creating positive change. This shift empowers you to move beyond emotional paralysis and toward purposeful action. Focusing on solutions requires training your mind to pause when negative thoughts arise and redirect them toward constructive possibilities. This does not mean ignoring your feelings or pretending everything is fine. It means acknowledging the emotions but refusing to let them dictate your path. When you catch yourself ruminating, gently bring your focus back to what you can do differently or what small step you can take to improve the situation. A practical way to develop this habit is to ask solution-oriented questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" or "What's wrong with me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" or "What actions can I take now?" These questions open the door to creativity and problem-solving rather than despair. They activate your brain's executive functions, helping you analyze options and make decisions grounded in reality. Breaking down emotional problems into manageable parts helps avoid feeling overwhelmed. Identify the specific issues within the larger challenge and prioritize which you can address immediately. Taking small steps builds momentum and reduces anxiety. Progress, even in tiny increments, fosters hope and motivates further effort. Over time, these small solutions accumulate into meaningful change. Action is the antidote to emotional stagnation. When you focus on solutions, you naturally take initiative and engage with your circumstances. This active approach releases energy that was trapped in worry and self-pity. Movement toward resolution strengthens your emotional resilience and confidence. Each problem solved reinforces your belief in your ability to navigate future challenges successfully. It is important to maintain a realistic mindset while seeking solutions. Not every problem has an immediate fix, and some situations require patience. Focus on what is within your control rather than external factors beyond your influence. This boundary keeps your energy directed where it can make a difference and prevents frustration from growing. Collaborating with others can enhance your ability to find solutions. Sharing your challenges with trusted friends, mentors, or professionals provides new perspectives and ideas. Others may see options you hadn't considered or offer support that lightens the burden. Effective problem-solving often arises from dialogue and collective wisdom rather than solitary effort. Resisting the temptation to blame yourself or others is crucial when focusing on solutions. Blame traps you in the past and distracts from what needs to be done now. Accept responsibility for your part without self-judgment and release what is outside your control. This balanced accountability keeps your energy forward-focused and constructive. Cultivating emotional detachment helps maintain clarity during difficult times. Detachment does not mean indifference, but rather observing your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. This perspective creates space to analyze the problem objectively and devise effective responses. Mindfulness practices can support this state of balanced awareness. Visualizing successful outcomes enhances your motivation to focus on solutions. Imagine how resolving the issue will improve your life and what it will feel like to move past the struggle. This positive vision provides encouragement and directs your attention away from negativity. Visualization strengthens your commitment and sharpens your problem-solving mindset. Learning from setbacks is a natural part of solution-focused growth. When a chosen action doesn't yield the desired result, treat it as valuable feedback rather than failure. Analyze what can be adjusted or tried differently next time. This adaptive approach transforms challenges into opportunities for deeper learning and emotional maturity. Self-compassion supports your journey towards solution orientation. Be kind to yourself as you navigate complex emotions and imperfect progress. Acknowledge the difficulty without harsh judgment and encourage yourself to keep moving forward. Compassion fuels perseverance and reduces the risk of giving up when obstacles arise. Time management plays a role in balancing emotional processing with solution-focused action. Allocate specific times to reflect on feelings without distraction, but commit the rest of your day to productive steps. This balance ensures you honor your emotions while preventing them from dominating your life. Celebrating progress, no matter how small, reinforces your solution-focused mindset. Recognize when you successfully manage emotional difficulties or take positive actions. Gratitude for your own efforts strengthens motivation and builds confidence. Positive reinforcement encourages continued growth and resilience. Over time, focusing on solutions rewires your brain to become more optimistic and proactive. Your neural pathways develop a habit of seeking answers rather than dwelling on problems. This mental conditioning creates lasting changes in how you respond emotionally and mentally to challenges. The impact of this mindset extends beyond personal well-being to your relationships and work life. Solution-focused individuals communicate more effectively, resolve conflicts with less drama, and inspire cooperation. Their clarity and calm influence others positively, creating environments of trust and productivity. Adopting a solution-oriented approach requires commitment and patience. It will take time to break old habits of rumination and worry. Persistence in redirecting your thoughts and actions builds new neural patterns that support emotional health and success. Each moment you choose solutions strengthens your capacity for calm, clarity, and constructive action. Your focus shapes your experience of life. By choosing to concentrate on solutions instead of problems, you reclaim your power and direct your path toward growth. This conscious choice is a daily practice that builds emotional strength and wisdom. Ultimately, focusing on solutions transforms emotional challenges from obstacles into stepping stones. It allows you to navigate life's difficulties with grace and determination. This shift empowers you to create a future defined by progress, resilience, and fulfillment, rather than stagnation and despair. Chapter 19. Prioritize restful sleep to maintain emotional balance every day. Restful sleep is a fundamental pillar for maintaining emotional balance and overall well-being every day. Without sufficient quality sleep, your ability to regulate emotions weakens, making you more vulnerable to stress, irritability, and mood swings. Sleep is not merely a period of rest, it is a vital process where your brain and body recover, process experiences, and prepare to face each new day with resilience. Prioritizing sleep is essential for anyone seeking emotional stability and personal success. Many underestimate the impact of poor sleep on their emotional health. When sleep is fragmented or insufficient, the brain's emotional centers become hyperactive, while areas responsible for rational thinking and impulse control become less effective. This imbalance makes it harder to manage frustrations, process negative emotions, and maintain perspective. As a result, small challenges may feel overwhelming, and reactions become more intense and less measured. Creating a consistent sleep routine is the first step toward emotional balance. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day helps regulate your body's internal clock, making it easier to fall asleep and wake up refreshed. This rhythm supports natural hormone production that governs mood and energy. Irregular sleep schedules disrupt this cycle and increase emotional volatility. The environment where you sleep plays a crucial role in the quality of rest. A cool, dark, and quiet room encourages deeper sleep stages that are necessary for emotional processing and memory consolidation. Minimizing noise and light exposure prevents interruptions that fragment sleep. Investing in comfortable bedding and reducing clutter creates a space that invites relaxation and calm. Avoiding stimulants like caffeine and heavy meals close to bedtime supports the natural winding down of the nervous system. These substances interfere with your body's ability to transition into restful sleep and can increase nighttime awakenings. Instead, focus on calming activities in the evening, such as reading, gentle stretching, or listening to soothing music to prepare your mind and body for rest. Technology use before bed is one of the most common disruptors of sleep. The blue light emitted from screens suppresses melatonin production, a hormone essential for initiating sleep. Setting boundaries around device usage in the hour leading up to bedtime helps your brain enter a state conducive to rest. Engaging in offline routines signals to your nervous system that it is time to relax. Practicing mindfulness or meditation before sleep can improve emotional balance by reducing stress and quieting racing thoughts. These practices calm the mind and lower physiological arousal, making it easier to fall asleep and stay asleep. Even a few minutes of focused breathing or guided relaxation can significantly enhance sleep quality and emotional regulation. Recognizing the signs of sleep deprivation empowers you to take corrective action. If you notice increased irritability, difficulty concentrating, or emotional reactivity, these are indicators that your body and mind need more rest. Listening to these signals, rather than pushing through exhaustion, protects your emotional health and long-term success. Physical activity during the day also contributes to better sleep and emotional stability. Regular exercise helps regulate your circadian rhythm and reduces symptoms of anxiety and depression. However, intense workouts should be avoided close to bedtime as they may increase alertness and delay sleep onset. Finding the right balance supports restorative rest and emotional resilience. Addressing sleep disorders, such as insomnia or sleep apnea, is essential for emotional well-being. Chronic sleep disruptions significantly impair emotional regulation and cognitive function. Seeking professional help when sleep problems persist ensures you receive the appropriate diagnosis and treatment to restore healthy sleep patterns. Napping can be a useful tool for emotional recovery when done correctly. Short naps of 20 to 30 minutes during the day can boost mood and alertness without interfering with nighttime sleep. However, long or irregular napping may disrupt your sleep cycle and increase emotional instability. Use naps strategically to recharge without undermining your overall sleep routine. Hydration and nutrition influence sleep quality and emotional balance as well. Consuming water throughout the day and eating balanced meals, rich in essential nutrients, supports your body's natural rhythms. Deficiencies in vitamins or minerals can contribute to poor sleep and mood disturbances, so a well-rounded diet is a key component of emotional health. Tracking your sleep patterns and emotional states can reveal valuable insights. Using a journal or sleep app helps identify habits or triggers that impact your rest and mood. This awareness allows you to make informed adjustments and prioritize behaviors that enhance sleep and emotional equilibrium. Creating a bedtime ritual that signals to your body it's time to relax fosters consistency and emotional calm. This ritual might include dimming lights, practicing gratitude, or gentle yoga stretches. Rituals reduce mental clutter and prepare you for restorative sleep, strengthening your emotional resilience. Limiting alcohol consumption supports deeper, more restorative sleep. While alcohol may initially induce drowsiness, it disrupts sleep cycles later in the night and leads to fragmented rest. This results in increased emotional sensitivity and decreased cognitive function the next day. Choosing moderation preserves sleep quality and emotional stability. The relationship between sleep and emotions is bidirectional. Poor sleep worsens emotional difficulties, and emotional distress can interfere with sleep. Breaking this cycle by prioritizing rest creates a positive feedback loop, where better sleep leads to improved mood and vice versa. This synergy enhances overall well-being and success. Understanding that sleep is not a luxury, but a necessity shifts your mindset toward making it a priority. Viewing rest as essential self-care empowers you to set boundaries and make lifestyle choices that protect your emotional health. This perspective fosters long-term commitment to habits that support balanced emotions and sustained energy. Consistency in sleep habits builds emotional resilience over time. Regular restful sleep improves your ability to manage stress, adapt to change, and maintain a positive outlook. It strengthens neural connections involved in emotional regulation, making difficult situations easier to navigate with calm and clarity. Restful sleep restores not only your body, but also your capacity for empathy and compassion. When well rested, you are more patient, understanding, and emotionally available to yourself and others. This deepens relationships and enhances your ability to lead and inspire. Prioritizing sleep also sharpens your decision-making and problem-solving abilities. A clear mind is less prone to impulsive reactions driven by heightened emotions. This clarity supports wise choices that align with your values and long-term goals. Sleep hygiene requires intentionality and discipline. It means saying no to distractions or late-night obligations that undermine your rest. It means honoring your body's need for downtime even when life feels busy. This discipline builds the foundation for emotional balance and peak performance. When you consistently prioritize restful sleep, you invest in your emotional strength and mental clarity. This investment pays dividends in every area of life, personal, professional, and social. You become more resilient, focused, and equipped to handle challenges with grace. Ultimately, restful sleep is a cornerstone of emotional mastery and success. Making it a non-negotiable part of your routine empowers you to show up fully for yourself and others. This commitment enhances your quality of life and sets the stage for continuous growth and fulfillment. Chapter 20. Commit to lifelong emotional growth for sustained personal success. ChatGPT said, "Emotional growth is a lifelong journey that shapes every aspect of your personal success and fulfillment. Committing to this ongoing process means dedicating yourself to understanding, managing, and expanding your emotional capacity throughout your life. This commitment requires patience, humility, and consistent effort, because emotional mastery is not a destination, but a continuous unfolding of self-awareness and resilience. Choosing lifelong emotional growth means embracing change and being open to new experiences that challenge your current beliefs and habits. It calls for a mindset that views difficulties and setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and evolve. This perspective transforms obstacles into catalysts for deeper insight and strength, fueling a positive cycle of growth that sustains personal success. Developing emotional intelligence involves consistently reflecting on your feelings and reactions. Self-reflection uncovers patterns, blind spots, and unconscious biases that influence your behavior. By bringing these to light, you create space to make intentional choices rather than react automatically. This conscious awareness enhances your ability to respond effectively to stress, conflict, and uncertainty. Growth requires curiosity about yourself and others. Asking questions like, "Why do I feel this way?" or "What does this reaction tell me about my needs?" opens pathways to deeper understanding. It invites exploration rather than judgment, allowing you to embrace your whole emotional landscape with compassion. This curiosity nurtures emotional flexibility and adaptability in a world that is constantly changing. Building emotional resilience is a core part of lifelong growth. Life's challenges will inevitably test your capacity to remain balanced and hopeful. Resilience is cultivated by practicing acceptance of difficult emotions, learning from mistakes, and developing healthy coping strategies. It strengthens your ability to recover quickly and move forward with renewed energy and confidence. Committing to emotional growth means prioritizing continuous learning, reading books, attending workshops, engaging in therapy or coaching, and seeking feedback are all tools that support your development. Expanding your knowledge and skills related to emotions equips you to handle complex situations with greater ease and wisdom. Learning becomes a lifelong habit that enriches both your inner world and external relationships. Developing empathy and compassion deepens your emotional growth. Understanding others' feelings and perspectives enhances your social connections and nurtures kindness. Compassion toward yourself and others creates a supportive environment where growth can flourish. These qualities foster trust, reduce conflict, and open pathways to cooperation and mutual respect. Lifelong emotional growth requires a strong commitment to self-care. Caring for your physical, mental, and emotional needs creates the foundation for sustainable growth. Adequate rest, nutrition, exercise, and relaxation support your ability to engage with your emotions fully and effectively. Self-care is not selfish, but necessary for maintaining the energy and clarity needed for emotional mastery. Practicing mindfulness and presence strengthens your connection to the present moment, which is where emotional growth happens most effectively. Mindfulness allows you to observe your emotions without getting lost in them or reacting impulsively. This awareness fosters greater control over your responses and deepens your understanding of yourself. Building healthy habits supports the ongoing nature of emotional growth. Small daily practices such as journaling, gratitude, and deep breathing accumulate over time, reinforcing your emotional intelligence. Consistency in these habits creates a stable framework that holds you steady during emotional turbulence and propels you forward in your journey. Setting clear intentions guides your growth with purpose and direction. Define what emotional mastery means for you and what values you want to embody. Intentions act as a compass, helping you make choices aligned with your goals and aspirations. Revisiting and adjusting these intentions regularly keeps your growth focused and meaningful. Being patient with yourself is essential in lifelong growth. Emotional development is not linear. It involves progress, setbacks, and plateaus. Embracing this reality with kindness prevents discouragement and fosters perseverance. Recognize and celebrate your progress, no matter how small, as each step contributes to your overall growth. Connecting with a community or support network amplifies your emotional growth. Sharing experiences and learning with others creates a sense of belonging and accountability. It provides encouragement during challenges and inspiration from others' successes. This collective journey enhances motivation and deepens your understanding of human emotions. Integrating emotional growth into all areas of life enriches your experience. Applying emotional intelligence at work, in relationships, and within yourself creates harmony and fulfillment. This integration strengthens your capacity to lead, collaborate, and inspire others. Your growth becomes a source of positive influence and empowerment beyond your own life. Commitment to emotional growth nurtures humility and openness. It requires acknowledging that there is always more to learn and that perfection is neither possible nor desirable. This mindset keeps you receptive to new insights and experiences that expand your emotional wisdom. Humility fosters authentic connections and continuous improvement. Practicing forgiveness, both for yourself and others, liberates emotional energy and clears the path for growth. Holding on to grudges or self-blame traps you in the past and hinders progress. Forgiveness releases you from these chains and opens space for healing and renewed growth. It is a powerful act of emotional liberation. Taking responsibility for your emotional state empowers you to create change. Recognizing that you have the capacity to influence your feelings through your thoughts, actions, and choices shifts your role from passive to active. This ownership fuels motivation and builds confidence in your ability to navigate life's challenges. Regularly revisiting your emotional growth journey keeps your commitment alive. Reflect on what you have learned, how you have changed, and where you want to go next. This ongoing evaluation ensures your growth remains intentional and aligned with your evolving self. It strengthens your dedication and clarifies your path forward. Lifelong emotional growth enriches your sense of purpose and meaning. As you deepen your emotional understanding, you become more connected to what truly matters to you. This connection inspires authenticity and passion in all that you do. It grounds your success in values that bring lasting fulfillment. The commitment to grow emotionally fuels your capacity to live fully and courageously. It prepares you to face uncertainty and change with grace and strength. Emotional mastery supports you in creating a life marked by resilience, connection, and achievement. This dedication transforms challenges into opportunities and dreams into reality. Ultimately, embracing lifelong emotional growth is an investment in your highest potential. It cultivates wisdom, compassion, and strength that enrich every facet of your life. This commitment empowers you to live with intention, lead with heart, and succeed with balance. It is the foundation upon which sustained personal success is built and maintained.